Oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? It is. You know, we call that around here because it's always about the food. Taco Tuesday. Hit it, man.
But more importantly, y'all know what today is, right? It's Taco Tuesday!
Yeah, it is. Taco Tuesday, which, by the way, you informed me right for the show today is actually National Taco Day.
Today is National Taco Day. So
JP on the board.
You can go and check out, I know places like Taco Bell, even Zaxby's, which has like chicken tacos. Apparently, if you order something on the app, you get a free chicken taco from Zaxby's, I believe is what I saw. So if any of y'all are taco enjoyers out there, go check out what National Taco Day deals there are.
Baby, hey, baby, we're going to Mikasita tonight.
Hey, there
you go. All right. Well, good. Taco Tuesday. Happy Taco Tuesday to you.
Happy Taco Tuesday.
We got a lot of stuff laid on for you today. Good show laid on. Coming up halfway through the third hour. We've got Senator Tommy Tuberville calling in. He's going to have I'm sure, an earful to give us about the fact that the Biden administration's DOJ was monitoring his phone as a sitting U.S. senator, along with nearly almost a dozen other U.S. senators, all Republicans, go figure. So, yeah, the idea that they did that is unconscionable, and Senator Tommy Tuberville calling in halfway through the third hour to talk about it. And then I got a triple dipper just filled up with stuff. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right. The Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate. Oh, yeah. You know, sometimes I look around, I find the things that are happening in and around and amongst us. And I know that what that means is I've got to do what we call cooking up a batch of home fries. So coming up first on the Triple Dipper, a batch of home fries. We'll give you some of the news from your own backyard. And then number 2, yep, we're in the second week, not full week, but calendar week at least, of the government shutdown. And it's a mess. It's just unbelievable. Lawmakers don't see an off-ramp yet. They can't negotiate. It's just unreal. And we're calling it the Shutdown Shinola. So number 2 on the Triple Dipper, we're going to look at a whole batch of Shutdown Shinola. That's number 2. And then number 3, in conjunction with that conversation with Senator Tuberville, weaponized government. Y'all, it is unbelievable what the Biden administration thought they could get away with. And they did it all under the guise of, well, it's necessary. It's like, it's national security. No, it wasn't. It was called persecution. It was called weaponized government. And they want to claim that Trump's doing that now. That's laughable. Weaponized government. Here we are. We'll talk about it in detail. That's number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, I'm going to jump on into today's Rightside Way opening monologue, and I'll remind you guys that, Stan McDonald, absolutely. Stan McDonald, attorney at law at the Wilmer and Lee Law Firm in Huntsville, 30-year veteran of practicing law, is the daily sponsor of the Rightside Way, and I'll tell you more about Stan here in just a few minutes. All right, look, for those of my liberal progressive followers who like to take issue with virtually anything I say on social media, just go ahead and prepare to be triggered. I'm going there. I'm going there, the source of all consternation and the symbol of what too many of the liberal progressive wing of society have the concern of being the root cause of the great divide in public discourse. Pray tell, what could this be? What document has that effect upon liberals? I'm talking about the Bible. I'm actually going to reference the Bible today, so hang on. But first of all, though, I got to tell you that something happened very quietly earlier this year that kind of flew under the radar, and it really bugs me. It's right here in our listening area. You may recall that a couple of years ago, Alabama became one of the few states to pass a law against transgender surgeries and therapies on minors. The legislation was called the VCAP Act, which stands for Vulnerable Child and Protection Act. Liberal activists immediately filed suit against it, and the case went to court right here in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Alabama, in the federal courthouse in Huntsville. And then the most maddening part. The Biden administration jumped in as an additional intervener in the case to fight against the VCAP bill. The whole of government determined to allow impressionable children to be sacrificed on the cult of transgenderism's altar. And it was attorneys right here in Huntsville's office of the U.S. Attorney that fought the case for the Biden administration. Only after Trump was elected did the local U.S. Attorney's office bow out. Only after they were given the cover to do so, I guess. So with little fanfare, the local U.S. attorney just simply and quietly quit trying to fight to support transgender surgeries on kids. Right here in Red State, Alabama. And I have to question that. I have to wonder what was going through their minds as they pressed in on something so heinous. Did it not conflict with their morals? Did it not weigh on their consciences? Look, I want to point out that I do believe the Bible. I'm not asking that any of you suspend your own disbeliefs in the concepts of a loving and omnipresent God or of Jesus being our Savior. I do believe those to be true, but today I'm looking at the Bible as what many have forgotten it also is. You can acknowledge it as a source of historical record. Think about it. The Bible, whether you believe what it talks about in terms of faith, is still a historical record because it talks about cultures and mores and societal issues for thousands of years back. It's a source of cultural commentary because you see, the Bible is all of that. It has transcended time with no changes. It's a literal recounting of times, places, and cultures and forgotten peoples and cultural divides and wars and famines and natural disasters. Biblical scholar Josh McDowell, in his book called Evidence That Demands a Verdict, great book, by the way, Evidence That Demands a Verdict, he recounted the facts of biblical archaeology and the biblical historical record as part of the proof of God's existence that caused him to convert to Christianity when he had at first been an atheist. Literally, he was challenged to prove the Bible wrong, and he came to the logical conclusion that in the absence of proof that it was wrong, that he must accept, therefore, that it could be right. It was a choice of the heart that he made with his head. But in that vein, and go with me here as I talk about the transgender issue, in that vein, an interesting study emerged not too long ago. One recounting of it can be found on the website called Religion News Services from April 20th of 2022. An archaeologist by the name of Stephen Collins, he's the lead on an ongoing archaeological dig near the Dead Sea at a site known as Tal el-Hammam. Tal el-Hammam. In the course of the dig, Collins' team from Trinity Southwest University found overwhelming evidence of an apocalyptic event. There were melted rooftops, disintegrated pottery, unusual patterns on rock formations that are generally associated with intense heat, and evidence that for several centuries after whatever the event was, that 100 acres or so of the site lay fallow with no growth. In the journal Nature, he finally conceded that the incineration of the location and the timing and the evidence of the incineration appeared to match the biblical recounting of Sodom and Gomorrah. The recounting that I read said that by daring to postulate this finding, that Collins himself actually brought down the academic version of hellfire. But experts, though, from 19 different research institutions were finally said to have agreed with Collins that the findings indicate that a massive airburst or a comet did destroy the community at Tal el-Hammam in an area and of the approximate timing of the biblical Sodom and Gomorrah. All right. Why am I saying all that? Well, let's assume for a minute the findings of Collins' team are in fact Sodom and Gomorrah. If so, does it lend credibility to the biblical story? Well, I would say yes. Although some will be quick to point out the timing is not perfect, or the biblical recounting of Lot and his family fleeing with the advice of angels is just way too fanciful. Okay, whatever. But what about the rest of the story? What about the fact that it described a city that had become so depraved that strangers passing through were no longer safe there? That overly sexualized and often violent individuals felt so bold that they could bang on the door of a neighbor's house, Lot's house, and demand that he send out the male guests that had arrived so the men of the town could rape them. In a world that now sees U.S. attorneys fighting to support transgenderism on kids, or drag queens exposing themselves to children, and more, does the biblical account of the behavior of the men of Sodom and Gomorrah seem that far-fetched anymore? The simple answer is no. So then why are we shocked to find out that what is described as having occurred 15 to 1700 years ago back in BC may in fact be repeating itself? You know, I used to read scripture and I'd hear of biblical accounts of child sacrifice, and I'd think, wow, what does it take to get a society to the point that sacrificing their children is considered normal? The truth is, we're seeing the ease with which segments of society have come most recently to the notion that sacrificing a child is okay, as long as it suits the needs of the one doing the sacrificing. So yeah, we're not that far from biblical standards again, are we? But it's hard to compare anything to the transgender movement as it affects kids. Transgenderism, the notion that somebody could be born one gender and then change to another or identify to another, it's a mental disorder. It's not a physical disorder. It's a mental machination that defies science, and really it defies reality. And yet somehow the left has embraced this notion of gender fluidity And an entire cottage medical industry has sprung up on the treatments, the medications, the counseling, the surgeries, and the lobbying efforts to demand and cajole that this disorder must now be accepted, even when it comes to minor children. Sort of like Sodom and Gomorrah. There's no other mental disorder in the world in which healthy are required to join the unhealthy in their unhealthy behaviors. I've said it before here on the show. If someone were depressed or bipolar or suicidal, we would work and pray to lead them out of it. But the transgender agenda, it demands that we join them in their fallacious thinking, or else we are part of the problem. And like I said, even when it becomes something that involves minor children. And I'm telling you, Sodom and Gomorrah have nothing on this stuff. But the Old Testament is not out of line with the New Testament. Biblical archaeology and biblical cultural recountings, they continue well throughout the New Testament as well. And Jesus dealt with it firsthand when he rebuked his own disciples for trying to keep children from asking for his attention. In a very candid moment of concern for the well-being of children, Jesus told the listeners in Matthew 18 that when it comes to children, and here's the quote, he said, "If you give them a hard time, bullying or take advantage of their simple trust, you'll soon wish you hadn't. You'd be better off dropped in the middle of a lake with a millstone wrapped around your neck, doomed to the world for giving these God-believing children a hard time. Hard times are inevitable, but you don't have to make it worse, and it's doomsday to you if you do." By the way, that's the Message translation of Matthew 18, 6 and 7. So yeah, I choose to take the Bible literally. I personally believe it's the unerring word of God, but even if you don't, you would have to at the very least give it some due for its ability to recite records of historical culture and geography and world events. And it seems to be perpetuating itself. As Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. Evil still wants our kids. Evil still walks among us and still bangs on the door and demands access to our precious kids. And I believe that God's position on that is pretty clear. Drag queens, pedophiles, and parents who sacrifice their children to the little g gods of culture. Attorneys and politicians who turn a blind eye and sometimes even stand up in court to defend the idea of harming kids. That's just Sodom and Gomorrah on repeat. And I don't know if those of you hearing me relate to God like I do. I wish you would. But for now, just take the Bible as a history book at the very least, and consider that it may be giving us a warning about what happens to a society when it sacrifices the children. All that so-called enlightenment, that deserves nothing more than a millstone necklace. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Yeah, it's true. I mean, you could think about the Bible as certainly it's the Bible, it's the unerring word of God. But even if you don't go with the faith-based aspects of the Bible, which I wish you would, the fact is you can still look at it as a history book. And it tells us stuff. And it tells us what happens when communities become so depraved and they're willing to sacrifice their children. It tells you what happens to them. Where are they now? They're gone. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, you're not going to want to miss the latest edition of the Just Right podcast. We just put it in the can. Listen, we interviewed Ton Boyer, author of The Ground Kisser. What an amazing story she has, escaping communist Vietnam as a child, on a refugee boat filled with hundreds of people, intercepted by pirates, left adrift in the South China Sea, became a refugee, eventually found her way to the United States. She has a mission right now, basically to tell the world why America is the greatest place on the face of the earth, and two, to make sure Vietnam veterans know that they are loved and appreciated. Ton Boyer, you are not going to want to miss this conversation. Just Right podcast coming up. Yeah, let's do a show.
1, 2, 3, hey!
Well, Ton Boyer, welcome to the Rightside Media Studio.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you.
Having me.
Look, I'm going to do just a brief introduction, sort of tell the world who's sitting here at the table with me. But you got an amazing story. An amazing story. You grew up in a time of war in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
You became a refugee at one point, robbed by pirates as you were, leaving the country.
Right.
You were left adrift at some point, I understand. You wound up in Indonesia. You finally came to America. You found your husband. You found the Lord. You raised a family. And I think one of the things that I've noticed is you have a love for this country, which we'll talk about more with your book in a minute. But for right now, welcome to the Just Right podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Well, listen, I said it a moment ago. So you grew up in a time of war.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us where you're from and how that came about.
Yeah. I was 8 years old when the war ended. I
Vietnam.
came from in Vietnam. I came from the Mekong Delta of Vietnam. We live right by the Mekong River. Mekong River is pretty big river. I think it's even bigger than Mississippi River here. But we live right on the border between Cambodia and Vietnam. It's about 6 miles from my house, the border is. And I was 8 years old when the war ended. And because I live on the border of Cambodia and Vietnam, I also experienced the war between Cambodia and Vietnam after the fall of Saigon in 1975.
Yeah, that was a turbulent time. I mean, you're talking about the time of not just the United States presence in Vietnam and what the fall of Saigon was 1975. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think the U.S. troop pulled out in 1973.
Yeah, and then Saigon fell in 75. Is that right?
Right.
The communist takeover of the country at that point.
Exactly.
But then the Khmer Rouge were north in Cambodia, and the killing fields started in like 78, 79 time frame.
Yes, about 76 when it kind of started, and then it just escalated between 78 and 79.
Now you lived in the Mekong Delta area, so were you in an urban environment, or were you in like a rural environment?
I was in an urban environment. It's a little town called Tăng Châu, Tanchau, and is in the An Giang province. It's, the roads in Vietnam is really not smooth like here. So it takes about 6 hours from Saigon. So it's a little bit southwest of Saigon.
Listen, I've had some time overseas myself in different parts of the world. And I've said many times people don't realize here in America that the dirtiest alleyway is sometimes better than the best road in foreign countries.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you remember war when you were a kid?
Gosh, yes. I remember a lot. And, when the thought of putting my story together and putting it in a book, I realized that I had forgotten a lot. And once I enlisted Lisa Smith to help me with the book, she asked some questions, and it just kind of, helped me to go back to the past. So I remember mostly where I am. The Vietnam War didn't affect me as much, but the war between Cambodia and Vietnam affected me a whole lot more because being near the border town, living by the Mekong River, we saw the atrocities of Pol Pot's, the killing fields, basically, coming down that river every single day.
I saw a speech you gave getting ready for today, and you talked about the fact that your mother would say, "Don't go to the river."
Yeah.
And you did anyway.
Yes.
Like most kids would do. Mom says, "Don't do it."
Exactly.
You did it, but what did you see? What happened when you went down there?
Well, my parents tried to shield us. We came from a very wealthy family, so my parents tried to shield us from a lot of things, and there are times where the atrocity of Pol Pot's body parts coming down that Mekong River. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 bodies. I'm talking about a wave of hundreds.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, the text lines are open. Text it, call it, same number for both. The number is 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it, like I said, or call it, and tell us your feedback. Some of y'all are already checking in. Before I do that, though, let me real quickly go ahead and tell you about Stan McDonald. So, Attorney Stan McDonald, I know the guy personally. I think the world of him. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee, 30-year veteran in the practice of law in North Alabama. And listen, not only is Stan the kind of guy who do a great job for you as an attorney, but he has been like a warrior in the mix, in the fray, in the trenches, on all the politics and policies that right-side ruffians care about. He's a longtime conservative. So that being said, Attorney Stan McDonald has also represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. And the thing I always say, if Stan McDonald's on your side, what? Oh yeah, you're going to have no greater friend. And likewise, your enemies would have no greater foe. So that being said, you need a lawyer in North Alabama, Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer & Lee. I'm going to give you his phone number. You ready? 256-533-0202. That's Stan McDonald, 256-533-0202. Tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And no representation made. The quality legal services would ever be anything worse than a plate of tacos on Taco Tuesday. What does that even mean? What did I just do? I don't even know what I just did.
Hey, you said Stan McDonald and tacos on Taco Tuesday.
That's right. By golly.
That's all that matters.
Stan's a great guy, good attorney, and I look forward to seeing him again here soon. Okay, TC from Priceville says, guess what day it is, Colonel? And he sends me a meme of a meme of, can you put that up on the screen? That is awesome. That's a meme of Hakeem Jeffries wearing a sombrero, and it says Happy Taco Tuesday. That is awesome. Are you putting it up? That is that sombrero thing has gone viral. If they
didn't get so triggered by it, it would stop. Okay,
I
but
know.
Them getting all,
it's racist, don't you know?
Yeah, that's what's making it continue.
Why sombrero? Was it because I saw Jeffrey said something about there will be no dinero or something like that? Is that why they put the sombrero on him?
Probably, but knowing Trump, he probably just saw that AI video and the internet, thought it was funny and posted it.
What AI video? Was there another one?
Oh, just the one of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, where
that came after Trump did it, though. I thought Trump was the one who did the sombrero first, wasn't it?
Nah, I don't know, but either way, it's funny. But then there was the AI video of Trump throwing them the Trump 2028 hats, and I mean, he's getting a kick out of it.
Just, you know what? And it's all good PR, man. Adam from Athens says, don't forget, they believe to have found a pillar of salt. That is believed to be Lot's wife. I have not heard that. Adam, if you have some archaeological article on that, I'd love to see it. That is cool. Darla from Athens says, way to go, Phil. Spot on as usual. Thank you, Darla. Appreciate you. Bruce from Springville says, mentioning the Bible, there's also the warning for adding to or taking words away from the book. Jesus emphasized that. I would agree. I'm not sure why you said that, but okay. Jeff from Indiana says, hey, Phil, gender dysphoria is treated like the emperor's new clothes. Adults are told to go along with the charade. And yes, they claim that they're a man or claim that they're a woman when they're not. You're supposed to say anything contradict that that's supposed to agree with it. I'm not okay. Got a little word salad going on there, but I hear what you're saying. But when a little child sees a man dressed as a woman or a woman dressed as a man, they know the truth. Maybe we ought to start listening to the wisdom of children. Brother, nailed that. And then Joe in Tennessee says, here's a karma bite. Many times criminal illegals and also many times deported illegals charged with crashing. What are we doing here? Crashing car. I'll tell you what, I'll get to this after the break. Joe C., thank you very much. More texts, more stuff. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
And thousands of bodies.
And you saw this as a kid.
I went, my mom and dad was like, don't go to the river, don't go look out to the river. And other kids, of course, me, and also dragging some of my siblings and cousins and go look at it. And I remember seeing bloated bodies, headless, heads and hands and limbs, and just coming down, floating down the river, and watching some of my relatives taking long sticks and push the body parts back into the channel so that it would, keep on floating down that main channel. And I remember the smell of it. It's just horrific.
There are, I've sort of said sometimes that memories are sometimes keyed more by smell than they are by visual.
Yeah.
Smells come back to you. They bring things back.
Absolutely. Believe it or not, the blooms of the pear trees in spring bring that memories back.
Really?
There's a smell of it that reminds me of the bodies that I smell as 9 years old. Wow. And I remember the other 2 weeks ago when I was given talk to a high school kids, and another memory came back of that time. I remember when the water received from the Mekong River, sometimes my family would let me play, me and my siblings and cousin. I have 1,000 cousins in Vietnam. I mean, we're all related somehow. So we would play by the river, out there with the water about waist deep. And us playing in that river somehow, I remember seeing a hand.
Oh, wow.
And we were all just screaming to get out of the water. And when you start seeing one or two body parts, there's more coming.
Mm.
So, I mean, within hours, you start seeing more bodies coming in. That's the Cambodian, that's Pol Pot's. Their communism, I think, is more evil than even Vietnam, because if you wear glasses, they will kill you. That's represent intellectual. They're not going to have it. If you can read a book, they will kill you.
And I remember hearing too that one of the things that was so amazing was how they would have children turn against parents, and
yes,
and parents even turn against children.
Yes.
And it was self-preservation meant turning someone in, and that was how you protected yourself. And
yes.
What a horrible life.
And I mean, to today, there are homes in my hometown where blood stains on the wall still. There's still blood stains on the wall, because where the Khmer Rouge would come in at night, and they would try to extract information from the locals, and they would take babies from mother's arms and take the baby and smash the baby against the wall. Oh. And there's still blood stains on those walls to today.
Well, I don't think Americans sometimes realize the blessing of living in a country where war does not touch the ground we walk on.
Right. Yeah.
Having said that, so you lived through some amazing events in your home country, your original your country of your origin. Mm-hmm. What was it like when the communists took over the country? I mean, you went from, and you said your family was fairly wealthy. Mm-hmm. What did your family do, by the way? How did
yeah. So my great-grandparents, my paternal great-grandparents, escaped the communist part of China.
Okay.
So he and my great-grandmother escaped communist part of China and settled in the Mekong Delta. He was a Eastern medicine man. So that was his profession. So they started a family there. Because we live by the Mekong River, which the Mekong River is a gateway to all the commodities, coming down that river from Cambodia and other part of the...
It's a trade route.
Trade route. So my paternal grandfather started buying commodities that came down that river, buy and sell. And
conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all talk about this show. This show goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. And I talk about Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, War Eagle, and then straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning, and then big old patches, North Georgia, Mississippi, thrown in just for good measure. That's just radio, by the way. That is just the radio footprint. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world, going to the World Wide Web and logging in and doing the live stream thing, live streaming from places like X and Rumble and YouTube and Facebook and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then, oh, by the way, there's a ton of y'all that podcast the show after the fact. We can tell because we see the numbers. Here's the bottom line, you guys. Wherever it is you catch this show, thank you very much. Wherever it is you catch this show, thank you for doing so. You're the reason why we get on the microphone every single day. I got a couple of quick announcements. So first of all, I am going back to CNN tomorrow. That was actually, believe it or not, the scheduling got kind of jammed up, and they did not even confirm until last night, and then they didn't even confirm travel until today. So like a little while, like right before the show started. So that means we're playing catch up a little bit. But nonetheless, what that means is tomorrow you will hear a replay of a show. So just understand, tomorrow will not be a live broadcast for reasons outside of our control. And so we will play a best of tomorrow, and just bear with us on that. And thank you very much for your indulgence. At the same time, I will also tell you that I think today needs to be noted. It's not part of the Dippers. I really thought about doing a whole segment on this. And I thought, no, I'm going to do it more justice on Friday because I have a guest coming in to talk about Israel. In fact, I've got two friends right now that are going to be coming on the show in the near future, one on Friday and one in a date to be determined probably next week. The one next week is on his way back from Ukraine, where he's been doing ministry near the front lines. Pretty amazing, great personal friend of mine. And in fact, I'll just go ahead and tell you right now, those of y'all that remember Boomer used to be on the show, it's Boomer's dad. So Boomer's dad has been on the show before talking about Ukraine and his ministry there. He's on his way back from the battlefield, and we're glad he's safe because there's some things happen right near him. But that'll be next week. But today, I need to also note, today is the 2-year anniversary of the October 7th massacres in Israel. Friday, I expect to have State Representative Mark Gidley on, and Mark just got back from Israel. And it was a government-based trip. He was not there. Mark himself has actually been a pastor for years and years. But Mark was there as a state legislator on a small delegation that went to meet with members of the Israeli government. And he's got a couple of perspectives here. We talked on the phone yesterday. I think it's going to be fascinating. My hope is to have him on the show Friday, and I will do more honor to the idea or to the incident that occurred on October 7th, 2 years ago today. But to give you a perspective, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I feel like the news has begun to leave behind the swath of destruction that was just wreaked upon Israel on October 7th of 2023. To give you some perspective, it was bigger for Israel in a per capita manner. If you look at their population, it was bigger for Israel than 9/11 was for us. The scale of it for Israel would be as if we had lost 40,000 people on 9/11. That's how big it was. The scale for Israel was huge, but it was also broad-based, and then it was also terror-inflicting. It was not just that people died. Sometimes it was the way they died. Beheading babies, raping women and then killing them in front of their children, filming it, laughing over it, and doing all of this, like literally swooping in on music festivals and people's homes and going to their bedrooms and waking them up and murdering them in their den. It was probably one of the most despicable, literally just like heinous acts of like something you couldn't make up. You couldn't make up a novel like this. And then Hamas wants to preach to the world that they're the victims. Somehow they're the victims. Victims are not the ones who behead babies. I got news. The terrorists are the ones who do that. And so Israel has been flattening Gaza now for the last 2 years, 3 years, 2 years, 2 years, flattening Gaza for the last 2 years. And they brought it on themselves. I don't know if the Hamas leadership thought that the world would say, don't do anything, Israel, and they would listen. But Hamas has never known to be smart anyway. Right now, we're working through the process of whether or not there's going to be a peace agreement. But there are some things, still left to be determined about that. Hamas is holding out on some things. But one of the things that also gets overlooked, aside from the actual number of deaths and terror, were the number of people, hundreds, that were taken captive. They weren't, by the way, those are not prisoners of war. They were not combatants, none of them. They were hostages who were dragged away from their homes, dragged away from their businesses, dragged away from their neighborhoods, and taken to places. In fact, I'm watching the reunification right now on the screen. Look at that. The left screen right now has one of them coming home. There's still some being held in the tunnels and in the wreckage of Gaza by Hamas. And that is unconscionable. Can you imagine 2 years squirreled away in a hole somewhere with Hamas, throwing you a biscuit once in a while, torturing some of them? We've heard some crazy stories about what they had to endure from the ones who've been released. It's believed that many of them died in captivity. All that to say, I wanted to make sure that I did not let this day go without acknowledging the significance of it, because it is one of the worst modern examples of terror inflicted upon any nation that anybody can remember. So yeah, that's that. Bless him, Lord. All right, a couple more quick texts. Philip from Huntsville says, Bible, Bible, stands for Basic Instruction Before Leaving Earth. That's fair. John from Huntsville says, Phil, magnificent monologue. Thank you, sir. Also, did you hear that they're apparently selling PBS legend Bob Ross's iconic paintings to make up for a lack of government funds? I have not. Will they go for as much as Hunter Biden's did? By the way, he says, JP, did you hear about Jerry Jones's unfortunate incident at the Dallas Cowboys game on Sunday?
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
I did not. What happened?
Apparently, he was fined because he was caught on camera giving the bird to some Mets or Giants fans at the stadium.
Jerry Jones?
Yep. So, it is funny because I think a lot of the Cowboys, well, let's just say almost all of the Cowboys' demise is because of him and how bad of an owner he is. So it looks like he may be feeling the pressure a little bit, maybe a little bit upset about how things are turning.
So you're not a Jerry Jones fan, I take it.
I mean, I'm not a Cowboys fan, so I don't care that much, but I think it's pretty obvious how bad of an owner he is.
Wow. Okay. All right. I don't see him selling off his stock anytime soon.
Nope. And then when he is no longer the owner, his son will be the owner. So it's going to be a just passing of the torch.
How much was the fine? Do you know?
It was over $100,000, I believe.
Oh, he can.
Yeah, that it's like a drop in the bucket.
He's got that in his couch cushions.
Yeah.
John from Harvest says, preach it, Brother Phil. Jesus did not eat with sinners and tax collectors because he wanted to appear inclusive, tolerant, and accepting. He ate with them to call them to a changed and fruitful life, to die to self and live for him. His call is transformation of life, not affirmation of identity, and it's a call available to everyone. John from Harvest. Well said, sir. Jack from Huntsville says, Colonel, what is your control? What is in your control is the ability to hand the show over to the ever precious and ever erudite JP. JP does a superb job in your stead. Well, thank you, sir. He's talking about me being gone tomorrow.
Erudite.
Erudite.
What is that?
Well, that's
erudite.
That's a fancy way of saying that you're smooth.
Oh, well, thank you, Jack.
Smooth and conversant.
Why, thank you.
It's a good Scrabble word. Adam from Athens says, what I can pull up quickly at work, Lot's wife. They found Lot's wife, archaeological evidence, and it gives a link to a article which I will check out during the next break. So thanks, Adam. Appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to jump on into the first dipper today. Going to do some home fries here in a minute, but I got to tell you, there are stories that I'm going to go through about Alabama and Tennessee. My Georgia listeners, forgive me, but there's a couple of major things happening. In Alabama, I will tell you, it's crime in the streets. In Tennessee, it's an election that's pending right now. Yeah, an election, yes. They've got a special election to fill a Republican congressman's seat. Mark Green resigned from or retired from office most recently. Special election underway. Trump weighed in. Does a Trump endorsement mean something in this district? I would say so. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and take our break about 45 seconds earlier than usual. I'll come back and dive right into it. But, yes, dipper number one, we are indeed going to cook up a batch of home fries. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Business, and he has 10 kids. My father is the third child. Okay. And everybody worked in my grandfather's business. And so he started that business. And I mean, we dealt with everything. We bought silk coming down that river. We had a bakery at one point. We had a Fanta bottling company, believe it or not.
Really?
In Vietnam, South Vietnam at one point. So we were one of the richest family in our province.
So what happened when the communists came? Because
wealth
is not usually allowed in the communist countries.
Not at all. They came in and they basically overnight, with a stroke of a pen, they nationalized all of our businesses and take away and close our bank account, froze our bank account, take over some of our homes and our land. And they were allowed my family to have only the bakery. And even with that, they tell us what to produce, how to produce it, and even at what price. So we went from having when the richest family in the province do want to be just like everybody. I mean, that's what communism and socialism is, right?
Yeah.
They basically their things is take from the rich to help the poor. Sounds great. Sounds really. Who does not want everybody to be equal? But it doesn't work that way. All I did was take away the incentive of people really working, want to do better for themselves, and the rich become poorer and the poor stay in poverty.
Yeah, communism crushes the spirit, doesn't it?
It is, and communism is, it's a religion. It's a religion.
Was it so when they took over everything, when the communists took over the country, and the South Vietnamese government fell, did they literally come in, aside from the stroke of the pen and the things that they took, did they come in and did they micromanage your life? I mean, did they actually walk into the house and tell you, here's how things are going to be?
Yeah, we had a communist family came in and lived with us.
Live with you?
Just to watch us.
They put watchers in your house?
Yes. To make sure we didn't hide anything from them, because we were rich. And basically we went from, okay, I'll give you an example. Before, when you have aches and pain, you can go to the market and get a bottle of aspirin.
Right.
When the communists took over, commodities and everything was so scarce that you can only buy one aspirin. And also because that's all people could also afford.
Wow.
A pregnant mom can only buy one multivitamin. You can't just go buy enough rice and soy sauce and things like that for your family, or fabrics and threads to make clothes. You have to stand in line to buy, those things.
Everything rationed, everything parceled
Everything rationed, yes. And you can stand in line for hours sometimes, and there's nothing. And by the time they get to you, there's nothing left. And you have to come back the next day to get back in line.
Meanwhile, the communist leaders got fat.
They
sure.
got fat. Yes.
Yeah,
they
sure.
took over all the people homes and moved in, and even today, all the millionaires in Vietnam, you betcha, they have a communist tie to them.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so this is a turbulent time. How long after the fall of Saigon did you remain in the country? You personally remain in the country?
4 years.
So 4 years,
And
so
I think
1979-ish.
1979's 2 weeks after my birthday, which is in May, it's when my sister and I escaped Vietnam.
Okay, well, tell me about that, because I know in one of the speeches of yours that I reviewed, it wasn't your whole family that came out.
Right.
It was just a few, and your parents had to make a choice, basically.
Yes.
So what was that family discussion like to decide who leaves and who stays?
Gosh, I remember that night very clearly. I had several aunts and uncles. They were able to afford to pay passages. And when I say pay passages to leave Vietnam, meant that you're paying the official to look this way so you can escape this way.
It's a bribe.
It's a bribe. So if you get caught, they can throw you in jail. So basically you bribe the government to leave. So I had a few aunts and uncles that had signed up to leave Vietnam on this riverboat. And they're going to Australia because they felt Australia is the safest place to be. And also we have a few cousins that already left Vietnam.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, we're going to do something we like to do on a regular basis, which is keep you informed of certain key stories that are happening in and around and amongst you. So every once in a while, when I'm looking up things for the show, when I'm resourcing is what I call it, when I'm resourcing the show for the day, when I'm getting the dippers ready, I realize there's enough stuff out there that, we got to pay attention to that's happening right here. It's not just what happens in D.C. It's not just what happens on the foreign policy stage. Sometimes you got to look around and in and around and amongst you and realize that what happens in your own backyard might even be more impactful. That we call that cooking up a batch of home fries. Oh, yeah. Cook them, man. Cook them up. All right. So the first one I got, I'm going to dive into Alabama here for a minute. So you may recall, we mentioned it yesterday, that there was a major shooting incident in Montgomery over the weekend. This major shooting incident is something that, in my opinion, should be national news. I mean, look at some of the other stories that are national news and then question why this is not. But there was a shootout that resulted in 14 people being shot. 14 people being shot, 2 of which were killed. So 12 injured, 2 killed in a shootout. What we know of it right now, this happened in Montgomery. It happened on Saturday evening. It happened just down the road from our state capitol. I mean, just blocks away. We had Morgan Murphy on yesterday, who is very familiar with the area, and he talked about this very thing. But we had 2 dead, 12 injured in a major shooting incident. There was apparently a large gathering because of a football game in the historically black college and universities. The Crampton Bowl. The Crampton Bowl. It was an HBCU game at the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery. Crowds were bigger than usual. The city of Montgomery is also unveiling a new Ferris wheel. It's going to be a permanent fixture in downtown. It's right near the Biscuit Stadium. And this shootout was massive. Well, now the war of words has begun. Who's to blame? Who, pray tell, is to blame? Somebody's to blame. Well, first of all, the criminals are to blame. By the way, they don't have a suspect. Now, the mayor of Mayor Stephen Reed, the liberal mayor of Montgomery, he said the police responded very quickly, and I don't fault the police. They responded very quickly. He said that one police officer was only 50 feet away when the shooting began, which I find that interesting. But they don't have any suspects. One story I read seemed to indicate that there were 2 people with firearms, but a lot of people in the way in terms of collateral damage. But on the same day, it says the state leaders announced tougher state action in Alabama's capital city. Mayor Stephen Reed is pointing the finger at the state's lax gun laws. So, of course, that's the problem, because guns are the problem, not the criminals, not the thugs, not the ones who pulled the trigger. It's got to be the gun itself. Well, Mayor Reed says in response to Governor Ivey's recent directives on safety and security, said there's no legislation that can stop that kind of evil in the moment. But he asserted that Alabama law makes it far too easy to carry firearms and too hard for officers to intervene. Come on. No, it's not. That's unreal. Montgomery City Council, says Mayor Stephen Reed, and the mayor's office tried to bring a measure of accountability by requiring anyone openly carrying a firearm to show identification upon request. Well, since the state law became that we've been an open carry state for a long time, but we're now a permitless carry state also. You can carry concealed and not require a concealed carry permit for it. So you've got a situation right now where Montgomery was trying to take it one step further and put what would have to be a gun control measure in place. So you've got a gun control city council and mayor's office. You've got an effort to try and curtail state law. They've been admonished by the AG's office. But the reality is it's about policing, and it's about giving the police in the venue what they need to do the work. And you're not getting, the bottom line is Montgomery's got a problem. And Montgomery's problem is A, crime, and B, soft on crime, members of the city council and the mayor's office. I will say this, I find it interesting that towards the end of the article, it says that Mayor Stephen Reed said, "We welcome any assistance the state is willing to provide." Really? Do you mean that? I question whether you mean that.
Well, apparently, according to Yellowhammer News, Kay Ivey actually reached out to Stephen Reed to offer that up.
I'm getting to that one next. Absolutely.
And he ignored her,
and
of course.
Yeah, never responded. By the way, ALEA, the state law enforcement agency, says no arrests have been made, but a $50,000 reward has been posted. And Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall said on Sunday, that in response to the shooting, his office stands ready for, quote, revisiting the conversation about the state's authority over its capital. Okay, what does that mean? All right, here's the next piece. Governor Kay Ivey, we hear from Yellowhammer News, if I can pick up the article. right here in my callous former paratrooper hands. Governor Kay Ivey called Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed to offer help after the mass shooting. He did not answer and has not called back. Come on. I mean, I realize he doesn't work for her per se, but that is definitely a peer, so to speak. He's the mayor of one of the 4 largest cities in the state. The governor called, who, by the way, is the governor of the state, in his city is the capital, and he didn't bother returning the call.
Yeah, someone Kay Ivey who lives in Montgomery, so
it's not hard. It's not a long distance call. But yeah, Governor Kay Ivey's office says that she personally tried to reach Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed on Monday morning to offer state assistance, but the mayor did not take the call and has not followed up. Governor Ivey says Gina Mayola, her press secretary, says, attempted to reach Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed Monday morning to offer support, and while he did not take the call, she left a voicemail to ask what she could do to help. She also specifically asked the mayor to work with Aaliyah Secretary Hal Taylor, and the administration has not heard back from the mayor or the police chief. All right, but here's what she's doing. So Governor Ivey issued 2 directives. Keep in mind, this is a major shooting in a city that's been dealing with violent crime, and it's right down the street from the Capitol. That's a big deal. Number 1, she's allowing Aaliyah, our state law enforcement agency, Aaliyah, to expand its Capitol patrols well past the Capitol property. So you're going to watch, and they're going to basically say we have more range. We can range out a little bit now. That's already happening. She also said that all available state assets are prepared to stabilize the city. What does that mean? I'm sure that means National Guard. I don't think in this case it will be necessary. I think that most people would argue, and I would understand, that this was not a endemic problem. This was an issue of a mass gathering. There won't be another mass gathering like this one for a while. And the crowd is part of the problem in this case because that's where it all started. But y'all, the fact remains that we've got a situation in Montgomery. Our state capital has got a crime problem, and we have got to get this under control. And this is our version of what's happening in places like Chicago. This is our version. And it shouldn't have to be that National Guard's required. Locals can do the job. I'll tell you more about it when we get back, and then move into Tennessee too. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The fall Saigon, and they settle in Australia.
Okay.
So overnight, one of my aunt came home and told my dad that there may be some empty spots on this refugee boat, and that we should take the empty spots. And there's 8 of us in the family, my parents and 6 kids, me being the oldest.
Okay. How old were you at the time?
I was 12.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And basically, my parents have only a few hours to decide this. And my parents, of course, at this time in 1979, everybody was struggling. We don't have a whole lot of money. And I know it was a lot of sacrifice for my parents to even, bribe someone to the official for me and my sister to leave. And so, yeah, there were only enough money for just 2 passages. And so they picked me, being the oldest. I was 12. And my next sister, she was she's a little bit over 10 years old, to leave with my aunt and uncle. And my parent has to make the decision overnight. I mean, I just can't imagine. No. The pain and the...
Do you remember them telling you?
I remember, yeah. And I remember my parents said to trust them, and I think, being the oldest of 6, I'm pretty bratty. It's kind of like a bratty, and also kind of...
Were you headstrong?
Yeah. I mean, I can fight any boys in my neighborhood growing up. I mean, I would have like a spitting contest with the boys. And anyway, so I just felt like, at that time, I felt like I'm trusting my parents. And even though now looking back, I can't even imagine them having to make this decision.
No.
Because, you know, honestly, they don't know if they will ever see me and my sister again. They don't know that, right? But they have to make this hard decision because they knew that at least 2 of their kids may have a better life elsewhere than Vietnam.
Well, I mean, that's huge. And I've raised kids, and I understand you've raised your kids. And I cannot imagine at 10 and 12 years old sending them away and knowing I never see them again.
I remember saying,
what an amazing thing.
Saying goodbye to my little brother. He was 2 years old. And that night we slept in a mosquito enclosement. That's how we sleep in Vietnam.
Under
I remember
a net?
Yeah, mosquito net. I remember hugging my brother and one of my sister, 2 of the other sister. It was summer, so there was no school. So 2 of the sister did visit some of our relatives elsewhere. I remember thinking, this is maybe the last time I get to see 2 of my siblings and my parents. And I just, that morning when my dad took my sister and I to the coast to leave on this river boat, looking back and seeing my mom there, not sure if I ever see her again. That was hard.
Oh, well, I can't even imagine. I also can't imagine not just your side, but I can't even imagine the parent side of it. But so you got on the boat though, and you're on there, and you do have some family ties on the boat with you. You have an aunt, uncle, and some cousins.
Yes.
How many total?
There was 2 sets of aunts and uncles and 2 of their kids.
Okay. And then how many people total on the boat? I mean, is this
It's about 400.
Oh, this is not a small boat.
No, well, no, it's a small boat, but they fit as many people in there as they can, and there was not room. There was only room just to sit. There's not even room to lay down. And I remember one time my sister and I had our backs together just to sleep because there's no room to lay down.
All right, I heard you speak. This was not a smooth voyage. This boat, and you were actually at some point intercepted by pirates. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, how'd that go?
Well, not very well. But, well, first of all, the South China Sea was full of pirates at that time. And because they knew that the Vietnamese refugees carried gold and jewelries with them to start their lives elsewhere, right?
Right.
So piracy is, I think it was estimated that a quarter of the refugee boat people was robbed by pirates.
Wow.
And they're from Thailand and other, Malaysia, Indonesia, and all that. But yeah, we were, after several days at sea, we actually landed in Malaysia.
So you went ashore in Malaysia, or is this before the pirates or after?
This is okay. So this part may be a little bit sensitive, in a way, but this is the truth. We landed in Malaysia, and we thought we were going to be rescued. Well, the Malaysian Navy came out, and they tied our boat to their boat, and they pulled us out to the sea.
Oh, wow. And
we thought we were getting pulled to somewhere like a refugee camp or something. They pulled us out to sea where there's no people that can see them. They robbed us.
The Malaysian Navy?
Yes, because they were in uniform.
Wow. Wow. Did you have any personal items of your own stolen? Were there any people that were taken? I mean,
yeah.
Well, I would imagine human trafficking is also an issue sometimes in this.
That would have happened, I believe, with all my heart. But if it wasn't for the grace of God, God intervened during this situation because a huge storm was brewing. So they started robbing people, and they found a bunch. They came over with metal detector.
Yeah.
And the captain of our boat has hidden some gold on the boat, and they found the gold, and it was a lot of gold. And so they were busy doing that. And then they make people strip off their jewelry. And I remember my mom had sent some jewelry with us, some gold bracelets and necklaces and stuff. And my sister and I actually strip them off of us, and we would stuff them in our mouths just to hide from the pirates.
Oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, here we are, hour number 2, Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday, baby. Let's just play it again. Why not?
But more importantly, y'all know what today is, right? It's Taco Tuesday!
Visions of Hakeem Jeffries wearing a sombrero dancing in my head. Just like that.
Well, maybe we ought to change the picture of the Taco Tuesday button to a sombrero Hakeem.
If you want Hakeem with a sombrero staring at you every day when you sit at your desk.
Actually, I'm a pass.
Text line real quick. I'll get a few of those. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Brian S. from Huntsville. Brian S. says, the last 3 championships the Cowboys won were under Jerry Jones' ownership. Also, I believe he's one of the most conservative owners in the NFL, but I could be wrong about that. And that's what I was thinking, too. You were dissing the man a minute ago, but I thought that I recalled him being quite the Republican and very conservative and yada, yada.
I'm dissing him as an owner.
You're dissing him as an owner because he gets involved in the team's management or what?
Yeah, and I don't care that much because I'm not a Cowboys fan, but if you're going to ask me if I think he's a benefit to the Cowboys, I would say no, because those championships that Brian S. is referencing, I wasn't even alive when that happened. So,
neither were all the ones you try to claim for Alabama.
Try to claim or one?
Try.
Okay. Yeah, whatever.
You know I'm right.
No.
John C. from Madison says, I bet you the thugs that did the shootings in Montgomery are Democrats if they were to align with the party. You know what? I'm going to bet you the thugs that did this in Montgomery could care less about politics. I bet they could care less about life. But speaking of which, let me dive back on that. All right. So I'll finish up that piece of the story because one thing that I did not get to yet was that Governor Ivey has put in place a couple of directives. Number one, she says that Alabama law enforcement agency will now expand its Capitol presence into key downtown corridors. So if you're familiar with the layout, the Capitol Police, or the state police, has authority over the Capitol grounds itself, but they're going to start ranging out, like state troopers start ranging out a little bit and patrolling the areas around downtown and the Capitol area, the State House, those kind of things. And of course, right across the street is also the Attorney General's office. And so, yeah, there's the complex right there is not confined to just the Capitol building. She also said that all available assets, state assets, are prepared to stabilize the city, meaning I think that she would call the National Guard if she had to. Now, she also said in a separate article that I got from AL.com, Phil, did you go to AL.com? I did. I go to these places so you don't have to. But there was one quote in an AL.com article that I didn't see anywhere else, where she said that she plans on asking the legislature to support additional resources to allow our state law enforcement presence to be more effective in downtown Montgomery. What does that mean? Probably up funding and maybe even giving them some form of expansive authorities that they didn't already have, or jurisdictional grounds to work within. So there's that. So anyway, that big shooting, like I said, I think it's buried in the headlines. I think it's not even being really discussed on the national level. Maybe it doesn't fit the liberal narrative. I don't know. But the reality is that thing was a big, big, big deal. And it's right down the street from your state capital in Alabama. Also, by the way, someone who is actively involved in enforcing the laws for the state of Alabama is the Attorney General. We had Attorney General Steve Marshall on the other day, but of course he's leaving. He's term limited out. He's running for U.S. Senate. The two lead candidates right now for the position of Attorney General to replace Steve Marshall are Catherine Robertson, who's his deputy senior counsel right now, and a guy named Jay Mitchell, who was on the state Supreme Court. So Catherine Robertson, Jay Mitchell, just so you know, they're both vying to be the state's next Attorney General. They raised nearly $137,000. That's Catherine Robertson, and $131,000. That's Jay Mitchell last month. In other words, Catherine Robertson came in slightly ahead. Both of them had good fundraising. Robertson was quick to point out that her fundraising edge was definitely there. Robertson, I think, also did she get the endorsement of Alpha? I'm not positive.
She did.
She did. So Robertson got the. She did. Robertson
yes.
did. Okay, so
and
Robertson.
I will verify that, but I'm almost certain.
Okay, Robertson got the endorsement of Alpha, the Alabama Farmers Federation, which is a big deal because that's not just like an organization with a special interest kind of. That's basically every county has its own Farmers Federation office, and then they all agree to try and support that candidate. I mean, you can vote how you want, but she got the endorsement of what are known as the local federations, and that's what guided Alpha's statewide endorsement. So that's a big deal. So yeah, big doings in the race for Attorney General. What you got?
Oh yeah, she was endorsed by Alpha.
Okay,
yes,
good deal. Now let's talk about Tennessee for a minute. Let's talk about the volunteer state, Tennessee. We have a special election. I'd forgotten this was happening. I guess because I don't live there, I don't see it on my TV and all that all the time. But right now, we're looking at Marsha Blackburn is running for governor, obviously, but there's also a special election to fill former Representative Mark Green's seat, and that election is coming up. Like, we're not waiting until next year. That special election is the 7th District of Tennessee. And listen, that district, Senator Marsha Blackburn and Donald Trump carried that district by 20 points last year. In other words, people care about Trump and Blackburn in the 7th district as they go to the polls. And that also means that if Trump was to do an endorsement, that would probably mean something. Well, it does. And I don't think he has yet. Did I miss that? Hang on one second. No, he has not yet. But right now there's a crowded field in Tuesday's GOP primary. You've got a number of people. And Trump did this endorse. That's right. He came in and endorsed a guy named Matt Van Epps. So a guy named Matt Van Epps just got the endorsement of Donald Trump at the end of last week. That's right. Other issues, it says, have fallen to the background now, while the increasing drumbeat of campaign ads largely revolves around support for Trump and his policies. So everyone's trying to identify. Here's what happens. People look at, is this a district that is supported by or supporting of Trump? Well, yeah, overwhelmingly. Trump won this particular congressional district by 20 points. That means people care what he thinks. That means every candidate's going to go, by the way, me and Trump are like this, and but then only one got the endorsement. Because the endorsement apparently matters here. If you were in Chicago, the endorsement might not matter as much. If you were in some, San Francisco enclave, it might not matter as much. But it definitely matters there. Special election looming. People going to the polls very soon. I think it's a special election. The primary is underway, but the general election will be December 2nd. Yeah, December 2nd. So keep an eye on that, you guys. That's big doings because, listen, it's going to be a Republican. I feel certain. It's going to be a Republican. But can you get another one who's pretty decent like Mark Green was? Well, Trump has now endorsed this Van Epps guy. What do we know about him? Can you look him up? Martin Van Epps. Matt Van Epps. I'm sorry, Matt. And then the second name is two names, Van and then EPPS. Do you have a bio on him somewhere? I should have looked that up already.
Says Matt Van Epps is a West Point graduate.
Oh, wow.
Combat veteran, ready to support President Trump's MAGA agenda in Washington, is what it says on his website.
Okay. What did he do in the Army?
I don't know. I can look it up.
I want to know. By the way, while JP is doing his magic, you got it?
Says it was a lieutenant colonel in the Tennessee Army National Guard.
Okay.
And he also served a decade on active duty, including deployments as a helicopter pilot and air mission commander and an Army special ops. So he's a special ops guy, I guess.
Okay. Aviation special ops.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's good. All right. I like it. And then lastly, I will tell you this before we go to the break. Wrapping up our home fry segment. In Tennessee, you also have the governor's race going on. And it kind of reminds me of what's happening in Alabama. You have two of the most conservative U.S. senators, both of whom had their phones, monitored by the Biden DOJ. But Marsha Blackburn and Tommy Tuberville, both U.S. senators, both running for governors of their adjacent southern states. Marsha Blackburn, according to a story here from the Beacon Center. By the way, if you're not familiar, we talk about Alabama Policy Institute a lot here in Alabama. The Beacon Center is the Tennessee version of API. Very conservative. If you ever want to know what's going on in your state legislative deals, what the policies are you should care about, all you got to do is go to their website, Beacon Center in Tennessee. They're really strong. I like those folks a lot. But it says that Blackburn currently holds a commanding 52-point lead over her nearest competitor. That's huge. I don't know what she could possibly do to lose 52 points. At this point, the race is hers to lose. The Beacon poll shows that both Blackburn and Rose, who is the other candidate, would hold a generic lead by 19 points over any Democrat. So Blackburn holds a commanding lead in the primary currently, and I believe she will maintain that. And then the Republican holds a commanding lead over the Democrat in the general. I think you're looking at obviously a Marsha Blackburn governorship, and I think she and Tommy Tuberville will be a force to be reckoned with in the Southeast.
I was about to say, we got Governor-elect Tuberville and Governor-elect Blackburn.
It appears to be that way. Go ahead and just put the crown on their head. I think they're there. All right, we're taking a break. That's enough of home fries. We will come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned.
So that was saved. But they found a lot of gold from the captain that they didn't want to bother with the people too much. And even while they were robbing us, there was this huge storm brewing really fast, and they wanted to get out of there. So
sometimes God calms a storm, and sometimes he brings a storm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the storm was brewing really fast, and they were trying to rob us really fast, so they didn't search everybody.
So you got to keep yours.
So my family got to keep ours.
Wow.
Jewelry. But that storm got them out of there. And their plan was they disabled our engine and threw some of our provision overboard. So they think that storm was going to capsize our little boat.
They disabled the engine, left the boat just adrift?
Yes.
Okay.
So they were hoping that storm would capsize our boat and kill all of us. So they don't have to do the killing themselves. We believe that is their plan. But that storm, if they didn't capsize our boat, that they were hoping we would be floating in the South China Sea, starved to death because they disabled our engine. We couldn't go anywhere.
How long did you stay adrift after that?
Several days.
Wow.
Several days adrift. And that storm actually carried us to Indonesia, closer to Indonesia.
Which is where you wound up.
Yes.
In a refugee camp, am I
yes,
right?
Yes. So the Indonesians saw a boat and they came out and they helped us.
That's an amazing circumstance.
Yeah, exactly. God just intervened.
How about that?
I believe that with all my heart.
Well, I believe it with you. So you got to Indonesia, and at this point, I mean, this has been a journey already, but you're not through.
No.
And now you go into a refugee camp that I saw one of your speeches, and it sounds like it was not really a well-established camp when you first got there. It was more like survival. Am I right?
Right. We were the second boat that arrived on that refugee camp.
Okay.
There was one other Vietnamese refugee boat there already. But every day, more refugees arrive on this island, and there was nothing on this island. There were not even shelter for us. Food was really scarce. There was still a little bit of food that we brought with us, and we ate what we had. And then we start eating things that we can found on the island. If you're lucky, you can catch fish out of the sea. But we ended up, and I remember eating things like snails and trying to find leaves and barks and grubs that I ended up eating.
I heard you say on one speech that you could go on the show Survivor and do really well.
Yes, I think I can. I really can.
There's big money in that. Well, but as a kid, so you're only 12 years old, and now you're eating grubs and making your own shelter, and you and your extended family are among how many people in this camp?
Well, like I said, thousands of people. I think it was estimated about almost half a million refugees by the time that camp closed.
Wow. Who who was running the camp? Was there an organized agency that was helping assist the camp, or was it just makeshift?
Not yet. We were there for several months before the international organization found that there were refugees there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what organizations wound up coming to your aid at some point?
It was CARE International.
CARE, yeah.
And World Vision.
Okay.
The Catholic, I think some Catholic church organization.
Red Cross or UN, did they show up at all?
I can't remember. I just remember CARE, CARE, and I remember World Vision.
Well, so...
Oh, and I do remember there was a ship that parked right outside of our camp eventually after several months, and it's called Sea Swift or something like that.
One of the Mercy ships at a hospital?
It's kind of like the Mercy ship because there were doctor and nurses that come in every day from the ship, and they made a little hut-like, little makeshift hospital there for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Mercy ship.
Well, so once the aid organizations began coming in, and realize you're still in a refugee camp, so everything's very relative. But did life improve? I mean, did you have food? Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, life did improve. They brought in a lot of medicine for. Oh, that's another thing. There were people that start dying of dysentery.
Oh yeah.
If you're not dying of starvation, you die of dysentery.
I had dysentery in Afghanistan, and it's not fun.
Oh my gosh, that's what I had in the refugee. I almost died. I really thought I was going to die, honestly. In the refugee, I had dysentery so bad. But eventually they came in, they brought medication.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Pulling pins on truth grenades, y'all. That's what we're doing. All right, so I'm jumping into Dipper number 2, the Shutdown Shinola. So if you're not familiar, I would question why. What?
I was going to say, what is Shinola, by the way?
Look it up. Shinola is like all of the detritus of life. It is all the things.
Well, when I look up Shinola, I'm just getting watches. This is why I'm wondering.
Shinola. Shinola. You get watches?
Yeah, Shinola watches.
Well,
when I look up Shinola definition, I guess it says a brand of boot polish. So there you go.
There you go. It was boot polish, but it was also considered to be the thing on your shoe. Like, that thing at the low end. It's like you're trying to put some Shinola on something and make it better. You know what I'm saying?
So it's not a brand of watches, is what you're saying.
It is not a brand of watches. It's a boot polish thing. We are chasing a rabbit in a big way.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you
okay.
off.
You know what? If you didn't get my title, then there's probably somebody else who didn't either. So yeah, Shinola. It's the thing you do to try to make something like old and worn out look newer, even though it's still old and worn out. And you slap it on that shoe you wear. You've never polished a shoe in your life, have you?
Nah.
Okay. I'm so old. All right. So the bottom line is this. We got some Shutdown Shinola. They're trying to put lipstick on a pig. Does that help you? Lipstick on a pig, baby.
And it actually fits. So there you go.
There you go. All right. So the lipstick on this pig is coming in the form of Democrats trying to explain why they're willing to shut down the government when they have said that this exact same CR that they voted for before is no longer good. And let's keep in mind, too, that you've got Chuck Schumer, who is leading the minority right now to engage in the shutdown, while he was the majority leader before Republicans took back the Senate. While he was the majority leader, he put a CR before the body 13 times. This is what he does. And yet he won't do it. There's a lot of reasons why. There are people that suspect that this is all about hating Trump. There are people who suspect it's all about control and power. There's also many people who believe that Chuck Schumer himself is actually just really scared of somebody primarying him, and he's worried about his leftist liberal base in New York City, where he's from. And so Schumer is worried that AOC or somebody else is going to rise up and run against him if he doesn't, show a fight, and get in there and try to fight. Well, I got news. I think he's losing votes because of it. That being said, I do have a sound clip I'm going to go for audio clip number 1, please. This is Senator John Kennedy, who I love that guy. Senator John Kennedy on the Larry Kudlow show on Fox Business, talking about the Schumer shutdown and talking about why he predicts what's going to happen in the next few days with the shutdown. Play it.
Could do likewise, but it's not personal for me, but I don't like almost anything that Chuck Schumer is doing. I don't like it. I mean, it's a direct contract. He wants to move the country in the wrong direction.
I don't hate anybody.
Neither do I.
And I know you don't. And when I say my prayers, I ask God, don't let me hate. I don't hate Chuck. Senator Schumer, I know him well. This shutdown's not about policy. It's about politics. And Senator Schumer, this is what's going on. He is trying to get the loon wing, the socialist wing of the Democratic Party, which is in control, to love him. And they will never love him. They won't. He'd be better off doing what he did back in March, and just calling it like he saw it and keeping government open. Because what he's saying, we're going to keep government shut down until you, the Republicans, and President Trump give the Democrats $1.5 trillion, and they're going to tell us how to spend it.
We just had John Thune on, Majority Leader of the Senate, who said we can't do that.
And we're not going to do that.
You cannot do that.
We're not going to. I mean,
and Schumer has to know that.
And he does know that.
Yeah.
And let me tell you how this will end. It will end eventually when Senator Schumer goes to 6 or 8 of his members and the Democrats and says, do me a favor. Vote to open it back up. I may have to criticize you. I'm not going to vote with you, but I need a way out of this. I need an offering.
That's the offering.
And that's what's going to happen. But he's got to be careful, because if it looks contrived, he's blown it. And he can't look like he's having a mutiny. But that's how we'll open back.
I agree. That's exactly what's going to happen. So I'm leading off with that first. How's this going to end? It's not going to end because suddenly Republicans came up with a cave. I don't think that's going to happen, because right now the only things that the Democrats are asking for are things that we just literally cannot do, like funding Medicaid for illegals, like repealing the medical reforms that we put into the previous package that Democrats supported, and extending Obamacare tax credits without further floor debate about doing so. All that to say, we've got a situation right now where Chuck Schumer is the one who controls the flow. And I don't mean like he's in control right now. I mean, he's the one who's going to find the off-ramp. Republicans are like, we want to vote, and they keep bringing it back to the floor. What's going to wind up happening is that Chuck Schumer, and I agree with John Kennedy, I've seen it happen in Montgomery, Chuck Schumer is going to wind up going to 6 or 7 of his guys and go, look, here's the deal. I'm going to criticize you, and we're going to pretend it didn't really happen this way, but I need you to find a reason why you can flip your vote and vote for this bill, and then we'll be done, and everybody will forget about it, and it'll be fine. And I won't challenge you, and I won't take away your position on a committee or anything else. Just do this for me. And they'll find a reason, and they'll bargain something, and they'll say, well, I want this or I want that. Okay, I'll do it. And the next thing you know, we'll be through with the shutdown. In the meantime, though, it's like friggin' Groundhog Day. It's Groundhog Day right now, because the same things are getting said over and over again. It's just like shut down Shinola right now. We'll take a break. We'll come right back, talk about it more. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
For all of us, and food, lots of food.
In fact, now that you say that, I remember one of your speeches. You said to this day, you still get a hankering for Spam once in a while because they brought Spam.
Yes. Yes. That's where I learned how to eat Spam. Yes. We still have Spam. Right now in our pantry, we always have Spam.
Well, it's funny what sticks with you like that. So you're in this refugee camp. Living conditions may have gotten somewhat improved, but you're still not in a good place. Is your family still intact? Everybody's still together?
Everybody's still together. And one of my uncle who serves in the Navy for the South Vietnamese Navy, so because he served, he get to pick what country to immigrate to.
Okay.
And of course, we picked the United States of America. Everybody wanted to come here.
Yeah.
This is the place.
Was it? And let me ask you about that, because in my time overseas and in my time in Afghanistan, I actually lived among the Afghan people for a year, and And it's amazing people who have never been to America still have an idealized version of what's here.
Yeah.
So you had never seen America, but you had seen Americans, I guess, during the Vietnamese War.
I have never had, no.
So you had no interaction with Americans
interaction.
before. Mm-hmm. What was the never having seen it, what was the mental image you had of America?
Cold.
It was cold?
Yes.
Okay.
What I remember as a little kid always hearing that America is so cold.
Okay.
And even when we were in refugee camp and getting ready to come here to America, whatever money left, my aunt and uncle left, they brought us wool sweaters to come to America.
They hadn't been to the South.
No. And it was July when we came, and we wore high neck, 100% wool sweater arriving to Huntsville International Airport.
What did you imagine about life in America before you ever got here? What was your did you have certain things you expected to see or you couldn't wait to see? Or
I could imagine, because my life before communists, we had French things like cheese and butter and champagne, all that, and I thought, and we've always heard that America is even better than that. So as a little kid, I think about living in a castle, living in places, that has carpet, and I don't know. It's just like a fairy tale, I guess. As a little kid, I just thinking America is like a fairy tale story.
Well, so the day came when you found out there was a sponsor. Mm-hmm. In Athens, Alabama, of all places.
Athens, Alabama.
That was willing to sponsor a family from the camp.
Yes.
How did it turn out to be your family, and what was that like?
I think it was the Van Kirks of Athens. Mrs. Van Kirk was a Catholic, and there was a nun that came to her St. Paul Church and spoke on the plight of the refugee people, and said, well, they need sponsor. They need to get out of the camp. They need sponsor. And it just really touched her heart. And that's when she and her husband decided to sponsor a family. And the Catholic Church placed our family with her family.
Did they have any limits, like we can only take 4, or did they say we'll sponsor whatever they consider to be their family and we'll take the whole thing?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I never asked her that question, and now she has long passed away.
So who notified you in the camp that you were going to be going to America?
It was one of the organization. I guess it's the Catholic organization.
Well, all right. So how did you come to America? By boat? By plane? What happened?
By plane.
Okay.
Yeah. We when we left.
The first time you ever flew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we left the original camp and moved to another bigger camp for 3 months. And there we were examined by the doctors and x-ray our lung to make sure we don't have TB. Some of us did have TB, and so it took a little bit longer to be on medication to get rid of it before we came to America. So we were there.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Man, oh man. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show. I mean, it goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga and Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call now, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches in North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world, going to the World Wide Web, logging into the live stream, looking inside the studio, audio and video, live streaming. Places like YouTube, X, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then, oh, by the way, all you podcasters too. You podcasters who catch the show after the fact. Listen, I say this several times a show on purpose because it's my way of identifying that we know where you catch the show. And the fact that you do just blesses us. So thank you very much for being a part of our lives. We would not have any reason to be on this microphone were it not for y'all. So thank you very much. All right, so let me get a few text messages and I'll jump right back into this Shutdown Shinola. Dave from Capshaw earlier sent me a meme. He's good at that. What'd he say? Oh, it's Babylon B. Chicago mayor hoping his ice-free zones work better than his gun-free zones. No doubt.
Can I just say, like, the
No
picture in
doubt.
that article, there's so many pictures like that where he just looks like clueless, like mouth open, like.
Well, he is clueless.
He is. Well, yes, that's true.
He is absolutely 100% clueless. Never led a thing in his life. Suddenly he's in charge of one of the biggest cities in the world.
And on top of that, he's not very photogenic, apparently.
That too. Kennan from Huntsville. Kennan, haven't heard from you in a while. Kennan from Huntsville says, I'm beginning to consider a compromise on gun control. Let's prohibit Democrats from having guns. Is there a laugh track on him? That would be funny. That's funny. Kennan, unfortunately, Democrats have the same rights we do. I shouldn't say it, unfortunately, but you know what I mean. John from Huntsville checking in. Oh, he's talking to you.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are having a chat on the side.
Yeah.
All right. Joe in Tennessee says the Democrats don't know blank from Shinola. Yes, I know the phrase.
Yeah,
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, there's one or two comments on the live stream with that too, so I guess that's a saying.
It's actually an age-old saying. Yes, it is. And then Karen from Hickson, Tennessee says, hi, Phil. I haven't left you, but I have been in Poland for a month. Wow. And a week in Istanbul. Good Lord. Learned so much about my brave sets of grandparents who escaped in the 1900s, left all behind. You never understand the wars with Germany and the Soviets until you see the World War II Museum and the Polish Uprising Museum in Warsaw. Wow. And Istanbul is mind-boggling. So much more to add to my worldwide perspective. I tried to listen to your show at 10 p.m. there, but exhaustion often was overwhelming. So happy and grateful to be back in the great USA. God bless. Karen from Hickson, Tennessee. And Karen, I got to ask, if you don't mind, are you Jewish? Because I'm wondering when you talk about the Polish Uprising Museum, was your family part of the Warsaw Jewish uprising in the what was it called, the Warsaw, not the slums, they had a name for it, but it was an amazing story where Jews fought back. So I'm curious. Tell me that, Karen. Either way, cool trip.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. Jeff from Indiana checking in says, you don't feel the Democrats don't know blank from Shinola? And I can't say, listen, y'all stop trying to get me to say it. I ain't going to say it. I ain't. Even if I did, we got a button over here you push.
I was going to say, Paul Bryan on the YouTube live stream said the Warsaw Ghetto. I was gonna
Warsaw Ghetto. Thank you very much.
I was going to say ghetto. I wasn't certain on that though, but yep, that's what it was.
Penny from Athens, by the way, says, to explain Shinola to JP, it's boot polish, but it's slang for what you don't want to step in.
Okay. Well, that tracks with Shutdown Shinola.
It works. And then Tom from Decatur, once again, checking me on Warsaw Ghetto. Thank you very much. All right. So go back to the Shutdown Shinola. Kristen Welker, who I'm generally speaking not a fan of. Kristen Welker, NBC. She was interviewing Hakeem Jeffries. And I will give her props. You know that I will. I'll call balls and strikes. Even when I see a Democrat do something right, I'll say, wow, look at that. I don't know if she's a Democrat. I don't know how she votes, but she sure acts like one. However, Kristen Welker actually gave the business to Hakeem Jeffries on NBC's Sunday Meet the Press. So Hakeem Jeffries was on there. I'm sure he thought he was in friendly territory, did not expect questions or, scrutiny, because you know how it goes on places like NBC and ABC and MSNBC. Welker noted to Hakeem Jeffries after he had just talked about the shutdown that she said, let me ask you, because you say this is a Republican shutdown, but it's Democrat senators who are withholding their votes on what is called a clean resolution. That means no strings attached, which is something, quite frankly, leader, that you and the other Democrats have advocated for in the past. Good for her. Can you believe this happened?
I feel like those are instances, though, where, CNN does this too, where they have to at least make it look like they're playing both like balls and strikes, to call them balls and strikes. So I'm sure like what she said was true, but I do think it was intended on the grand scheme of things to be like, well, we call out Democrats too, So I wouldn't say Kristen Welker or is not a Democrat just yet.
But okay, to your point,
yeah,
it's good. It's a good point. Maybe they're trying to have the appearance of bipartisan review. But I will say this: She went one step further. She then played him a montage of video clips of Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Jeffries himself, advocating for avoiding a shutdown and passing clean CRs.
That's good. Bring in receipts.
Thank you very much. Bring in receipts. So yeah, that I will say the shutdown Shinola, he got called out by his own people. And I'm going to bet you he went on that show not believing that would happen.
Yeah.
Because he noticed he probably didn't go on Fox. You notice he didn't go on, I don't know, pick one. He didn't go on
Fox, and that's it.
Steve Bannon's podcast.
Yes, true. Yeah.
So there's an article out there right now that just popped up on Fox News. I don't have it printed out, so I'll just go to the website right here. But Fox is pointing out that the government is limping deeper into shutdown crisis. No deal is in sight. The Republicans need for 8 Democrats to reopen government. Republican Senator Rand Paul always opposes CRs. It's a principal thing for him. He will not vote for a CR. So Republican Senator Rand Paul is against the CR. So that means we got to have 8 Democrats. We already have 3. So we need 5 more. So the Senate remains deadlocked, according to Fox News, on the path to end the shutdown as it nears its second week. Republicans' meager support across the aisle may, though, it says, be crumbling. This is interesting. So right now you got 3 of them. You got John Fetterman, who's already said he's going to stay in the reopen government camp. You got Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. Never trust a hyphenated name, JP.
Never, ever.
Never trust a hyphenated name. Anyway, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, Democrat from Nevada, and an independent from Maine named Angus King have all crossed over the aisle to vote with Republicans. Now, Angus King has just said, yeah, he may have to rethink this. I'll tell you what that is. That's Angus King profiling and angling for something that he wants. That's all that is.
Pork.
That's some Angus angling. Yeah. He wants something in a later bill. Yeah. He wants something that'll benefit him in the next election.
I'll vote for it if I get this or that, something I can bring back home, which I think is the case. And I'll say this too. Like, I feel bad for Jeffries and Schumer because it's clear they're not calling the shots. They're being told to do this by AOC. AOC is the one, but I can just tell by their body language in this whole shutdown Shinola that they're just doing what they're told. None of it's genuine, and it's AOC the one that's telling them to do this. So part of me does feel bad for them.
Okay, I don't. but you know what? Here's the thing. People respond to meaningful leadership. If they were to walk in and by the way, Schumer did this back in March. He did this exact thing back in March. He stood up on the floor of the Senate and he said, I don't like it, but I believe it's the best thing, and I'm asking my colleagues to join me. And he did. And some did and some didn't. If Jeffries and Schumer said, all right, listen, and they don't have to cry uncle. They don't have to say, we've been beaten, but they do have to say sometime soon, we recognize that the statesman-like view here is to move forward and we've got no choice, but we will see you in the midterms, and next time around, don't ask us for help. I could see them doing that. But here's the thing. Daily Wire has a piece that I hold in my callous former paratrooper hands. Daily Wire says that if Congress does not fund the government by Monday night, by the way, this came out yesterday, by Monday night, it will cost millions of Americans their next full paycheck. That was from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Her quote, millions of American federal workers are under enormous financial stress as a result, wondering how they will pay their bills and take care of their families. If the Democrats do not vote to open the government tonight, that's last night, Monday, federal workers will not receive their next full paycheck. So yeah, that's a timing thing. You know, payroll has to start early. You can't just do payroll the day of. Payroll starts early. There's the input, there's the validation, there's the balancing of accounts, there's a transfer of funds. All these things have to take place. It's massive, it's huge. So you can imagine they start a week early. And I mean, even as a small business at Rightside, I was asked to make sure I had payroll in by this coming Friday for next Tuesday's payroll because of Columbus Day. So they've got that to deal with too. So that being said, you're looking at right now, like 1 million active duty troops. Pay will lapse on October 15th. I'll tell you what else happens too. As a National Guardsman who's been through this myself, National Guard will not have training that month. And then you have to make it up another month. So it really throws things off. So if you are in the National Guard or Reserve, you will not be able to train because you can't get paid, and they can't bring you in to train without pay. So there will not be a drill weekend for many National Guard and reservists if this keeps up. And then they'll have to make it up because you're also guaranteed to have a certain amount of time you train per year. So now they'll go from what's called a MUTA 4 to a MUTA 6 or a MUTA 8 sometime later in the year in order to get those training days in. It's just nuts what this does. I'd forgotten about that, but it's just nuts what this does. Daily Wire reports 620,000 federal workers have already been furloughed as the government shutdown goes into its second week. More and more workers will join their ranks in the coming days, and that includes 1 million active duty troops whose pay will lapse on October 15th if there's not an agreement. So, all that to say, the shutdown is losing its luster, if you will. There are people who are tired of it. And there are people who are also, by the way, on the Democrat side, but they work for the government. And sooner or later, you can't blame Trump.
Well, and I know we got to go to break, but Britt Hume actually brought this up. Was it 2013 when the government shut down and Ted Cruz was on the Republican side fighting hard to cut, affordable care subsidies, and the Republicans got blamed by all mainstream media because they weren't in the majority, but they caused the shutdown because they weren't, wanting to negotiate. Now, on the flip side, we got Democrats shutting the government down to bring more subsidies from the Affordable Care Act. But do you think that the Democrats are currently getting blamed like Republicans got blamed back then?
Not to the same extent.
No.
Not at
So
all.
it's funny how that works. I mean, they're doing the exact same thing, and they're not getting nearly the blame as Republicans got.
Now, I've got it's great points. I've got a huge audience of both government employees and military. All right. So we're going to take a break, but I'm asking you if you would. I would love to get some input from some of you. How is this impacting your day to day? Are you off work? Are you furloughed? Are you having to come in without pay? Are you still in uniform and doing regular duty? Are you on half days? And by the way, if you're driving around Huntsville, especially Huntsville, because there's so much of a government employee base there, whether it be military or civilian, there's a lot of people not on the roads. Is traffic lighter? Give me your perspectives. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. We'll be right back.
3-4 months there on medications and make sure that we're healthy before we enter the U.S. So, and then we flew to Singapore. No, they took us to Singapore by boat, and we stayed there another week behind an enclosed camp there just to get us ready to come to America. And then there we flew to Seattle, Washington. That was the gateway.
Okay.
And then from there to Dallas, I think, and then Dallas to Huntsville International Airport.
So what was your first impression of the real America? I mean, what's the first thing that you, like looking back on it, what was the first thing that really struck you? I am in America. What did you see or hear or smell or
the
feel?
Airport.
The airport? Okay.
And there was this lady at the airport walking around with a basket of big red, delicious apples. And I remember the smell of the apple and the look of the apple. We get apple in Vietnam, but they're all bruised and everything because they ship from somewhere, But this was like so perfect. And I'm thinking, America is going to be like that red, delicious apple.
Wow.
Everything is perfect. Everything smells so good. That was my first impression of America.
It's again, it's one of those things where I think sometimes we take for granted where we are. Mm-hmm. It is way too easy for Americans, having always lived in the first world, mm-hmm. to really appreciate what we have until you go somewhere and realize what they don't have. Yeah. But you came from just the opposite. You came from a period of time where your family had everything, then you lost everything, mm-hmm. and had literally nothing, and now you're here.
Yeah,
and red apples made a difference.
Yeah, literally. I don't think we even have a penny to our name when we came to America. We have nothing left.
Well, that brings up a point. So you came to America, but then what? I mean, so did they give you a job, a house? So now what? You've been sponsored, but what does that mean? Yeah.
So when we got to Athens, Alabama, the community of Athens, and our sponsor provide us an apartment, a furnished apartment. And I remember seeing it for the first time. I remember take my shoes off and feel that carpet under my feet. It was so luxurious.
Wow.
And having flush toilet.
Oh, wow.
We didn't have to squat
to
use the toilet. Running water, washer and dryer, soft beds. I remember open that refrigerator that was full of food.
Oh, they stocked the refrigerator for you too.
Yes. I remember seeing chicken in there that I didn't have to chase after, killed and plugged and cleaned.
Wow.
And gosh, I remember that bed was so soft that even one of my cousin, the boy, he was just 3 years old. And because he's got used to sleeping on the hard floor in the refugee camp, that he couldn't handle the soft bed. So every morning we would go wake him up. He'd be sleeping on the floor next to the bed.
Wow.
A different family come every single week to take us to the store, to take us to the health department, to take us to the dentist, enrolled us kids in school. They came taught us English.
So they didn't just sponsor your trip. They sponsored your family to live.
Yes.
Wow.
To help us be successful.
Was this out of one church or was this a group of friends? What was this?
It was that family, and they included their friends and two churches. Mr. Van Kirk was a Presbyterian. Mrs. Van Kirk was a Catholic. So they had two churches involved.
Okay.
And then, of course, their family and their friends also. So it was not like a government program. It was just the people in the community rallying together to help this refugee family. And I tell you, we would not be a successful family if it wasn't for the community of Athens.
I think you just nailed something too. You know, in communism, the government does everything.
Yes.
But you came here, and it was private citizens who did everything.
That's right.
And they did it out of the joy of their hearts.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
That refrigerator, you talked about that in one of the speeches I watched. You talked about that refrigerator. You said a few things just now. There was a chicken in there. You didn't have to catch it and pluck it first. But you also talked about. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, some texts that have come in since my last all-call on that. Let's see. Paul from Athens says, it's raining buckets, a little less traffic, but all it takes is one numbskull. Okay. I hear you. That's got nothing to do with the government shutdown. That didn't cause the rain. Pastor Dave from Indiana says, actually, Pastor Dave, your text broke off. Send it. Well, let's see. Is it the Jay Jones one and this? Yes, okay, it is. With Jay Jones doubling down on his messages about killing his Republican opponents, it makes me wonder why none of his endorsements have dropped. Okay, this is totally off topic, Pastor Dave. Appreciate you, but he's talking about the AG's race in Virginia,
which is nuts.
Which is nuts.
Tim Kaine even today was pressed on it and said, "I've known Jay for 25 years. What he said is completely indefensible, but I'm not going to let that ruin the man I've known for 25 years." Like, are you sure that's the way to go about it?
But we're going to excuse it.
Are you sure that's the way to go about it? But
yeah, no doubt. Wow. Mike from Coxie, Alabama says, in Huntsville, traffic is definitely lighter in Huntsville, but I'm not sure if that's because of spring break with schools or the shutdown. I'd forgotten about spring break.
Fall break. It's fall break.
Fall break. I'm sorry. It's fall break. That's true. If it's spring break, you're late.
Yeah.
Mike from Athens says traffic is super light. What usually takes me almost an hour to get home from the Arsenal took 32 minutes this morning. Well, good for you. Wow.
Yeah, there might be that may be a positive aspect of it, making Huntsville traffic slow down a little bit.
A few positives.
Yeah.
We got a brand new texter in the line, calls himself Big Shad. Big Shad from Hartselle says, I heard you'll be off tomorrow. Already have the schedule set, but in the future, I'd like to hear more from JP. How about starting with 1 hour and increase? We've done that. We have done that. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow. We'll talk. But in the meantime, right now, this is unexpected and last minute planning. So forgive us and let's move forward. Thank you very much. David from Taft, Tennessee says traffic is wonderful this week in Huntsville. Okay. Karen from Hickson, Tennessee says, I was raised Catholic and most all Poles who come from Poland that I know of are or were Catholics. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the first part. Okay. She said her family, they were not Jewish that we know of, but to get on ships, you as a Catholic were more well received than Jews. So all the records were destroyed, most of the major cities that were completely destroyed. Unless you know the church's name they may have gone to, it's virtually impossible to find out. This was info from the American Embassy in Warsaw. She said, I was raised Catholic. Almost all Poles who come from Poland that I know of are or were Catholic. So she just was talking about the fact she just got back from a trip to Poland and to Istanbul, actually, and looking at her family's history. So that's very cool, Karen. Thanks so much for sharing that.
There's so many cool stories like that, like on the Eastern Front of World War II. Maybe we don't talk about as much as the Western Front, but it's just a lot of cool stuff like that.
Absolutely. Kevin from Athens says, a true story of Warsaw Uprising, The Zookeeper's Wife, a truly amazing read. Yep. And there's also another one. Is it called Invincible? I got to think about or I get it confused. There was a movie with Mark Wahlberg called Invincible, but the story of two Jewish brothers who led a major Jewish guerrilla force against the Nazis. And they lived, they hid out. I think they're Polish. And now I got to go back and look it up. Dadgummit. It's it's a great book. Is it called Invincible? Hang on. I'm going to find out and tell you. This is what happens when I try to go off the cuff sometimes. David at Bucky says, Phil, our son-in-law was notified today they may be furloughed in a couple of weeks. The shutdown continues. He works at China Lake Naval Air Station in California. They have savings, but they're hoping they don't have to touch it. Well, so do I, David. Thank you for sharing that. And wow, that's more of that's coming, I think, if we don't see a change real quick. What'd you find?
Invincible, 2001 movie by Werner Herzog, starring Tim Roth and Juku Ahola. It's a true story about a Jewish strongman. Follows a simple Jewish man who rises to fame in 1930s Berlin as a mythical strongman and must confront the growing threat of Nazism.
No, that's not it. That's not it at all. I will look it up in a moment. Do this. Just Google Jewish brothers who fought the Nazis in Poland, and you'll find it, I guarantee. I think I even did a monologue on
Defiance?
Defiance. That's it. It wasn't Invincible. It was Defiance. The book Defiance is amazing. It was made into a movie. Great story, true story. What were their names?
The names of the characters?
Yeah, the two brothers.
Let's see.
It's good stuff.
Is it Daniel Craig?
Daniel Craig played in it along with
Tuvia and Zus.
That's it. That's it.
Tuvia and Zus. Yeah.
Yep. And they led a guerrilla force, and they hid out in the forest, the deep forest. The Nazis wouldn't even go in there anymore, and they just wore Nazis out through World War II. Great story. Joe in Tennessee said Chuck E. Cheese Schumer is Dingy Harry Reid 2.0. Okay. Phil Williams. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Time when you thought you needed to eat some ice cream that was in the freezer.
Yes. So we're, of course, we came from a refugee camp, so food was, you eat everything.
You don't waste anything.
You don't waste anything.
Yeah.
So one day we're just sitting around, looking in the freezer and refrigerator and see what we can try. And we took out this tube of thing that looked like an orange sherbet.
Okay.
And we all took a spoon to get us try this American orange-looking sherbet. And we all went, oh my goodness, this tastes terrible. It was so strong. But because we just came from refugee camp, we sat there and ate the whole tube of orange sherbet.
And it wasn't orange sherbet.
No, a few days later, our sponsor, Mrs. Van Kirk, came over and she helped to make breakfast, American breakfast for us. The southern grits and the bacon and the eggs. And she went into the freezer to look for this orange looking sherbet tube, and she couldn't find it. And we told an interpreter that we ate it, and it was horrible. and the interpreter told us that it wasn't sherbet. It was actually orange juice concentrate that we ate.
Oh my gosh, I bet that was strong. That'd take the enamel right off your teeth.
Yeah.
Well, but I think you made a point though. Having come from where you come from, you don't waste anything.
No.
You don't. And I would bet that was more than just food. It was probably everything. Everything had purpose, and everything could be repurposed if necessary. Well, so you just mentioned a minute ago, though, you were working through an interpreter. How was the language barrier? You come to America, it's the land of promise. It's the fairy tale you're talking about. There's a stocked refrigerator and soft beds, but you don't speak the language. So how was that barrier overcome?
Well, there was an interpreter, and her name is Anne, and she show up once in a while to help, interpret. But most of the time, we don't have her. So we just point. A lot of time, we just point at each other or point at things, and there was a lot of smiles. There was a lot of nodding
heads.
Yeah. And we just follow them whatever they want us to do. We're just so grateful to their kindness and the community.
Well, and I heard too, you learned to speak Southern American.
I did. 2 syllables to everything. Right?
2 syllables to everything. And one of the things I saw you say, a lot of times you'll say y'all and then laugh about it.
Yes.
Because you grew up in South Vietnam, so it fits.
Exactly. Love the South.
Well, so, all right. You're a kid with a language barrier from another country, learning that there's places in the world that you can actually turn on the water and turn on the electricity and that everything typically works. But you still have to find your way. I mean, at some point, the other people sponsoring you are going to have to say, we need to help you find a job, or we need to help you get in school. So how did life begin to normalize, and when did your family begin to be able to do things without the assistance of others?
Yeah, it was probably, they were with us for at least a couple of years, believe it or not.
That's amazing.
Isn't it?
That's the goodness of people right there.
Oh my goodness.
Praise God.
The love that they shown is just unbelievable. Some of them with us, checking in on us, even after a year or two, they were still checking in on us. And and they found jobs for my uncle at Conagra at the chicken plant there in Athens. He started working there and earned some money. And us kids were enrolled in school.
Okay.
And the school was, oh my goodness, they were so loving. I remember my 3rd grade teacher, because I didn't know the language, she had picked a child out the class to follow me everywhere I went to make sure I didn't get lost.
Wow. But you said 3rd grade, but you were probably 13 or 14 years old by now, right?
I was 13, yeah, because I spent 14 months in the refugee camp. At this point, I was near 15. Because
that's usually middle school, almost high school age, but you're in 3rd grade.
Yes.
So I guess they had to do an assessment to find out where you were academically and place you?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you were older than all the kids?
Yes. Yeah.
Did it matter?
No, I'm not. I wasn't any bigger than them, actually. I was smaller. I was malnourished from the camp, and I was smaller than some of them, actually.
Wow.
And they would, at that time, I don't think they have the ESL
English second language.
Yeah, program yet.
Yeah.
But one of the language teacher pulled me out of class every day for an hour or so and worked with me.
Okay.
On the language. Yeah.
I've seen more than once that in families that come from foreign countries that the children learn the language quicker than the adults.
Absolutely.
Did you become the interpreter for the family?
Pretty much.
Yeah?
Yeah. My sister and I were, yeah, pretty much. My aunt and uncle, eventually, they learned English, and they both went to Calhoun and earned an associate degree.
Oh, yeah, for those who don't know, it's Calhoun Community College.
Yes.
So that's outstanding. So they were pursuing not just living, they were pursuing like improving their lot in life and doing which is also amazing because I think we have so many Americans that grew up in the first world, they forget the opportunities they have around them.
Oh, Yes, absolutely. That's what immigrants like me see, that America is full of opportunities.
Mm.
And that's why all immigrants want to come here, because they see those opportunities that we as Americans sometimes miss living here.
Well, so how long were you? Did you stay in a grade level below your age?
No,
throughout?
after third grade, they decided to skip the fourth grade. So I skipped fourth grade and I continued to go to school. And I was 22 when I graduated from high school. From
22.
Athens. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did anybody know that you were 22?
No. No, because at that time I probably could buy alcohol.
Well, yeah, probably could. You might have been the best friend.
Yes.
So, you came from a vastly different national, sometimes the international, and like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Welcome to hour number 3 on a Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday, baby. That's where we are right now. Got a few more text messages before I move on to the next topic. Matt in Madison says, I was heading to work this afternoon. Noticed the traffic seemed a little bit light. Well, I think that's probably fair. Somebody else pointed out it is fall break. So between fall break, government shutdown, I suspect that's so.
Well, I don't know if it's fall break for the public schools. Well, maybe. But I know it is for some private schools up there.
Either way, the roads are lighter.
Yeah.
John from Lexington, South Carolina. He says, it is crazy. A lot of civilians in my organization have either quit or were moved into new positions. I moved from being a programs analyst, market recruiting, mission research, to the advertising and public affairs. The day I was supposed to start training, the shutdown hit. It has taken 13 of the 15 civilian staff out of my unit. Thankfully, I have my military retirement and a very healthy Charles Schwab account, but for others, this is not good. John, I agree, man. This is tough, especially when, you've done your part, right? You're a tax-paying citizen. You go to work every day. You do your gig. Folks in the military, they sign on the dotted line, put on the uniform. They're willing to go to hard places, do hard things, and they get stuck in this. I will say it's gratifying to me. There are several members of Alabama's U.S. delegation. I remember Katie Britt was doing this, that have said they will not take pay during this. So good. But
I guarantee you there'd be no more government shutdowns if that was law. I guarantee you if Schumer and Jeffries lost their paycheck during this, they wouldn't be playing these games.
Unless their portfolio looks like Nancy Pelosi's.
Well, that is true, because obviously you don't need a big paycheck to become a millionaire as a Congress person.
Shag Nasty the Atheist checking in. Shag Nasty says, when this AI bubble busts, Schwab ain't going to be much. Okay, well, let's hope that's not true. Chris from Athens says, it's fall break for public schools too. Okay, there you go. Rusty O'Toole from Harvest says, before your time, I was a commander of a maintenance company in Alaska in 1978. President was Jimmy Carter. Dems ran everything. Congress adjourned and went home without passing the defense authorization bill. I had to tell my soldiers they weren't going to get paid. It took a couple of weeks to get it sorted out. Worthless Dems. I'd forgotten about that. That was the hollow army days of the Carter era. That was tough, man. My dad served through that. It was awful. Allie from Athens affirms the Zookeeper's Wife book and the book Defiance that I was talking about are both amazing. Oh, movies, she says. Daniel Craig was even convincing as a Jewish freedom fighter. Brian S. from Huntsville says, to push back again on the Jerry Jones comment. He says, since 1990, the Dallas Cowboys have had the 6th best record in the NFL. In the last 20 years, they have the 8th best win record. In the last 10 years, they have the 10th best win record. The majority of teams are worse than the Cowboys when considering their record as a whole.
Okay, I may have ruffled feathers with a Cowboys fan, and I apologize.
I just don't understand it, JP. Why would you go there? You just laid a landmine out there.
And they do have way more Super Bowls than my Falcons, so maybe I'm a little bit out of place to say that. So
there is that. Keith from Parts Unknown says citizens shouldn't have to pay taxes till government opens up. I'm for that. Keith, I like your style.
And then keep it going after government opens up.
Give him some applause. Thank you very much. I would appreciate that if we could just say legislators don't get a paycheck, taxpayers don't have to pay taxes. It's all good. David from Huntsville says, have you heard the breaking story? The DOJ is saying that Democrats stand by. That's the next dipper. And then, yes, David, thank you very much. And then Pastor Dave from Indiana is clarifying.
We read both of those.
Oh, we read both those. Okay, the one that's showing up again is unread. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Did you find that clip I was talking about a while ago? No, it's in here somewhere.
I don't know where
dude,
previous producer had it in this mess of a.
How can that be true?
There's a lot of stuff in here, so I don't know where we'll go through.
All right, we're going to find a clip and break things up a little bit. All right, I'm going to get into this next topic here. Coming up in about 25 minutes, we got U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville scheduled to call in. He'll be calling pretty much like just off the floor of the Senate, and giving us the perspective of what it feels like to find out the FBI have been monitoring your phones. Now, this is a mess. Now, I'm going to give you some history. Remember 1972? Well, some of you don't remember 1972, but you know history, you'll know what I'm about to say. There's a thing called the Watergate scandal. 1972, President Richard Nixon. Nixon's re-election team, his team during the campaign season, decided to try and bug or put listening devices into the Democrat National Committee's headquarters in the Watergate Hotel. They broke in, they laid the bugs. Nixon became president. I don't think that anything about bugging the room actually helped him win, but the fact is it had been done and that was wrong. That was illegal and made worse by the fact that they tried to cover it up. Covered up and the Watergate tapes became known. Everything fell apart. And because of the bugging of election officials, Nixon was forced to resign. He actually could have hung on and tried to endure an impeachment process. I will say this, he chose not to because he did not want to put the nation through the scandal. So Nixon resigned, and then, of course, his vice president, Gerald Ford, took over, and Ford actually pardoned him later to spare the world or the nation from having to watch the trial. Okay. I'm not excusing Nixon, not at all. I'm not going to go there. It was wrong. Shouldn't have happened. But where we are right now with a news story that broke yesterday, some are saying that what we're looking at is something that rivals Watergate. Does it? I don't know. But I think it's big. I don't think it's getting near the headlines that it should have right now. What you got?
By the way, I YouTubed the video you were talking about. So
okay, we'll get to that.
We can play it whenever you want.
We sure will. But the truth of the matter is, the story that we're going to get in the last dipper, in conjunction with our conversation with Senator Tommy Tuberville, is the weaponization of government at the highest levels. And this is not just, by the way, keep in mind, the Nixon campaign, it was a campaign, not the administration. The administration tried to cover it up because Nixon was already president. So technically you had to say the the administration was at fault for covering up. It was the campaign season staff that had done the bugging. In this case, we have special counsel appointed by the Biden administration's DOJ under Merrick Garland, Jack Smith, who is in his rabid, the Democrats had this rabid obsession with January 6th. A rabid obsession that led to them doing things that made no sense. The January 6th Commission, the lack of due process for people that were arrested and jailed, tracking down people based on their cell phone records, suppressing evidence, not allowing certain evidence to be seen until, Trump got elected. We were able to get to it. And one of the things we're finding out now is that in the middle of Jack Smith's investigation, it was authorized for the monitoring of U.S. senators' phones. And those U.S. senators, oh, by the way, were all Republicans. Go figure. One of which was U.S. Senator from Alabama, Tommy Tuberville. We're going to hear from Senator Tuberville in a few minutes. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is big, and I want to know whose head's going to roll. Is it going to be Jack Smith? Is Merrick Garland going to be called in to testify? Should. We'll take a break right now, though. We'll come back from this break, and I think I might just break things up and have a moment of levity because it's worth it. In the meantime, y'all stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. With a vastly different perspective on life and also maybe a deeper appreciation for what is needed versus what is wanted.
Right.
But then you got into like American junior high and American high school, and did you enjoy high school? Was it fun? Did you do sports or anything? What was it? No.
So we saw the opportunities that was here in America for us, and we knew that we left relatives at home that are struggling.
Yeah.
So I didn't have your typical high school, high schooler that's going to sport and going to doing all these things that high schooler do. And at that time in Athens, every Friday night they would ride around the square in their car, with their music blasting. That was the thing to do.
Yeah.
I didn't get to do any of that stuff because I was working.
Okay, where'd you work?
So my aunt and uncle, they earned an associate degree from Calhoun Community College, and they both got jobs. And from that, they saved their money enough to buy a Chinese restaurant.
Really?
In Huntsville, which is 30 minutes, about 20 to at that time, about 20 minutes drive from Athens.
Okay, yep.
So they bought the restaurant, and so I worked there, 7 days a week in high school.
All right, so I grew up in Huntsville.
Yeah.
You know that. You know some of my family. We
Yes.
discovered earlier. Where was the restaurant?
It's no longer there.
Okay.
It was a Hong Kong Chinese restaurant on North Parkway before you get to Max Luther.
Yeah. I think
It's
I've eaten
right-
there.
No way. I might have served you.
You might have. That's crazy.
Yeah. So let's see. It was right next to, it was attached to a hotel that has the orange roof.
The orange roof. Yeah.
Oh,
Your husband's over here wanted to say
Yeah,
it. Don't
I
worry about
know,
it. But,
I know.
but the reality is, so your family
oh,
had a
gosh.
restaurant and you worked in it. How many days a week did you work there?
7 days.
Oh, so you went to school and worked 7 days a week.
I would go to school. After school, I would drive up to Huntsville and work there, waiting tables. And in between waiting tables, I'm doing my homework.
So you've definitely got a work ethic.
Yes.
The restaurant was where you spent the majority of your free time, which wasn't really free, but was the whole family involved in the restaurant?
Yes. My aunt and uncle, of course, my aunt would quit her job to run the restaurant. My uncles continued to work just to keep the insurance.
Yeah.
And my sister would stay back home to take care of their boys who were still in school. But I helped with the restaurant during the week. And then on the weekend, everybody, the whole family worked. On Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, the whole family worked in the restaurant.
I think the other thing that too often Americans miss, and not everybody, because there's entrepreneurial spirit here. There's still a great sense of industry in the United States, and there are people that appreciate what we have, but there's also people too often that become complacent and don't realize that sometimes hard work really does pay off. And that's also honoring God. That's a stewardship of what he gave you.
Exactly.
Part of stewarding is even your time.
Right.
The relationships that you had with the sponsors who were with you for 2 years. One of the things that strikes me, there's a passage, and I've got to think where it is right now, but I think it's in 1 Thessalonians, but it says, because you had become so dear to us, we were content not only to share the gospel with you, but even our very lives as well. Meaning that what you had was a deep relationship with these people. Did that continue even after the first 2 years? Did the families you had seen that sponsored you and helped you, were they still around? Were you still seeing them?
Yeah. We still continue to see some of them. Yeah.
You said something in one of your speeches too about something. I'm jumping around a little bit, but you said something about one of the things that really got you was a Salvation Army angel tree.
Yeah. That first Christmas in America. I was 13.
Okay.
And then my sister, who was 10, 11. And then I have three, my aunt and uncle had 3 boys. They're younger. So that very first Christmas, I woke up, don't understand anything about Christmas.
You grew up Buddhist? Is that right? I think I heard you say that. Yeah.
I grew up, well, my family, Buddhist, but we weren't like practicing Buddhist, religiously or anything like that. I think it was just one of those things that you kind of pass on from your ancestor.
It was cultural religion as much as anything.
Yeah. And so I remember waking up.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. You know what? I'm going to call an audible, JP. I'm tired of talking about Democrats. I need a moment of levity away from Democrats. And so there's an audio clip. It's less than a minute long that we have played a couple of times in the past, like way far in the past, that is so worth hearing. It is for no other purpose right now except to just enjoy the moment. What's the guy's name? Do you have his name on there? What's his name? I can't remember his name, but
I don't know.
Play it anyway. Go ahead and hit it.
States of America, most powerful country on this planet.
Yes.
And it's not because we have more money or we're better looking. No. It's because we have something in this country they don't have in other countries. That's right. I'm talking about rednecks. Good old boys with an arsenal in their basement that have been waiting for just such an occasion since 1775. Oh, believe me, foreign troops land in the South, there'll be a line of pickup trucks and NASCARs heading down I-95. Marines will show up 3 hours later, nothing but beer cans and shotgun shells. What the hell happened here? War's over, baby!
I have loved that, and that so rings true to me. I don't know. Nothing but beer cans and shotgun shells. What happened here?
See how a foreign invader likes going through the Appalachians and
I'm just saying,
encountering the locals.
Listen, baby, Red Dawn all the way.
Or coming in through the Gulf of America.
Yeah. By the way, it is the Gulf of America.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Anyway, I did that because I wanted to. I don't know what sparked that memory of that same clip. See, look at the YouTube. See if you can figure out what that guy's name was. I cannot remember his name, but it is so worth it. It is so awful. So obvious that it's true. All right, we're gonna talk about several things related to the weaponization of government. See why I wanted to lighten things up? Because what'd you find his name?
Louis Ramey.
Louis Ramey, that's right. Great guy. Good comedian. So did you notice how clean that was too?
Yeah, that's true. He did it without.
It was still funny.
Yeah.
All right, so let's switch gears. I broke the moment. I lightened it up. I cleansed your mental and emotional palate just for the moment. And now we shall dive into the weaponization of government. All right, so we got several things happening right now that, in my opinion, are truly the weaponization of government. We're going to talk about that thing about, monitoring the phones of U.S. senators, which is just awful. But let me talk to you about a few other things that are happening. One of which is a story that broke here in Alabama. And I got this dateline yesterday from 1819 News. Our friend April Marie Fogel wrote this. On Friday, she said America First Legal released a sampling of what it describes as thousands of pages of new documents obtained through a Freedom of Information request, and shows how much power and influence the Montgomery-based Southern Poverty Law Center had during the Biden administration. It's unreal. SPLC was the darling. They got away with everything. They could do whatever they wanted. They could do no wrong. The SPLC, by the way, is a smear group now. This whole thing about them starting off to fight against, racism in the South, that's long gone. All their offshore money now, their big staff down in Montgomery, they are a smear group. Gene Hamilton, who's the president of America First Legal, says every American ought to be bothered by the fact that the Biden DOJ appears to have acted as a pawn of radical activists at the discredited and beclowned SPLC. He says, by weaponizing civil rights enforcement, Biden's DOJ undermined the rule of law, endangered constitutional rights of Americans who did not fall in line with their radical agenda. So there's that. The weaponization of government was oftentimes a partnering, if you will, with outside entities. The ACLU, the Human Rights Campaign, BlackRock, the SPLC. The SPLC, by the way, is the group that most recently Kash Patel, director of the FBI, said he had discovered the FBI had basically contractual relationships with the SPLC from which they gathered their information about hate groups. And he has put out an order that there will be no more affiliation with the FBI and the SPLC. The same SPLC, by the way, that put Charlie Kirk's TPUSA on a hate group list, and then he was killed like the next day, actually. The same SPLC that put the Family Research Council, which advocates for against same-sex marriage and against abortion, put them on a hate group list, and their office got shot up. That put, I believe, the Alabama Policy Institute on a hate group list. It's unbelievable. Basically, if you're a conservative, you may be a hate group with the SPLC. Well, the SPLC, we're now seeing thousands of pages from America First Legal that they were literally colluding with the Biden DOJ. Unreal. All right, here's the next one. We've got a situation right now. There's new details on what is often referred to as the Census Gate. Okay, Jim Banks has now asked for the Census Bureau to fix errors that gave the Dems 6 extra seats. So the U.S. Census Bureau admitted in 2022, according to the Federalist, where I've got it right here, I hold it in my callous former paratrooper hands. The Federalist came out with an article yesterday saying that the Census Bureau admitted back in 2022 that the results of the 2020 census were flawed in 14 states, meaning that the political infrastructure determined by the census are built on inaccurate information. We're stuck now, according to the article, in using this faulty census result until 2030. Because even if we had another census right now, U.S. code would mandate that mid-decade census results shall not be used for reapportionment. So what this means is Senator Jim Banks, Republican of Indiana, is now pressing the Census Bureau to share the information that will make it possible to review the accuracy of the 2020. So here's the thing. What they do is they go through in certain states and they count illegals. That's one of the major things they were doing. Counting all the illegals or double counting people or counting people they shouldn't have counted at all skews the data from which these states then rely upon to get representatives in Congress. The margins being so narrow, some believe that the fault that we have found in the 2020 census out of 14 states gave the Democrats 6 extra seats. Well, we only have a 5-seat majority for the Republicans right now. Those 6 extra seats would definitely give it a swing in a positive direction. The things that we're finding about the weaponization of government and the skewing of data and the inaccuracies that we've had to deal with and the conspiracies that we've dealt with, not the least of which is what we're going to talk about in a few minutes with our U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville about Operation Arctic Frost. If you're not familiar, Operation Arctic Frost was the name given to the DOJ's special counsel Jack Smith's interview or investigation into the January 6 events, in which we now find out he was monitoring the phones of U.S. senators, including Tommy Tuberville. Unstinking believable. This is America, y'all. This is absolutely not supposed to happen here. You don't just turn on the other party and use the weight of office to try and wound their very lives. You don't go after them without due course. And did you bother looking at Nancy Pelosi's phone? Apparently not. She's the one who was talking about whether or not to bring in the National Guard on January 6th, and she chose not to. The reality is what we're looking at here is a travesty of justice, a travesty of the Department of Justice. Y'all, we dodged so many bullets by voting Biden out. Unbelievable. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Christmas morning, and there was a Christmas tree that's decorated. And there's these big mesh bag. At that time, it was the angel tree. Came from the Salvation Angel Tree, which I didn't know that it came from Salvation Angel Tree, Salvation Angels Tree program.
Yeah,
I didn't know that, but I remember waking up seeing that the tree and these big mesh bag that full of toys and oranges. And I remember at that time, now I'm dated back, the strawberry shortcake, little strawberry shortcake dolls, that smell just like strawberry shortcake. I remember smelling it for the first time. And it makes such an impression. I'm like, who did this? Who would do this for us? It would just make such a big impression on me that a few years later, I found out that it was the Salvation Army Infantry, and I wanted to volunteer there and help. And so I got to volunteer with that program for several years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Give back.
To give back.
Yeah.
Because it makes such a huge impression on me.
Well, so let me ask you this. So you came to America with, you called it a fairy tale ideal of what America might be, never having seen it. Now you've been here for a few years. Was it living up to expectations?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
So no deflation, no, loss of the ideal?
No. Part of it because we knew what communism did to our country. And we knew that my parents and some of my 4 siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles in Vietnam, I knew that they were struggling so badly that anything is better than what they are living. And America has given us these opportunities we're just so grateful to whatever America gave us, and we seize it, and work really hard. I've always, when I go and speak to kids now, I've always like, you don't have to be the smartest kid in the classroom. You just got to show up and work. That's all.
I practiced law, and I was told by an old lawyer back when I was a new lawyer. I won't say young because I wasn't young, but I was told by an old lawyer when I was a new lawyer. He said, you don't have to be the smartest lawyer in town. You just have to be the hardest working.
Yep.
He said, most lawyers are lazy. He said, you do the work and do the research and prepare yourself. You'll beat the smartest lawyer in town every time.
Exactly. Wise words.
There are wise words. I actually shared them with another young lawyer later because now I'm the old lawyer. Well, so let me ask you something. You mentioned a moment ago, you knew back home that your family that you had left behind lived still in a struggle in many ways. Did you have communication with them? Did you know how they were doing? Did you write back and forth? What?
Yes.
Okay.
We did. At that time, we wrote back and forth, and it would take months. And everything we wrote to them was open by the communists.
Oh.
And they would read our letters because I knew that because when I received letters from home, my parents and sibling would date the letter, so I knew it would take several months. And all of my letters that I received had been opened. And I remember one time I even slipped $1 or $2 in my letter, and my dad wrote back and told us not to do that anymore because they won't get it.
Wow.
It was open and read and sealed.
But at least they knew you were safe.
Yes.
How long did it take before they knew you were safe?
6 or 8 months.
Okay. So you were able to get a message to them while you were in the refugee camp?
When the organization came and helped us, we wrote a letter to my cousin in Australia, and they delivered to my cousin in Australia. And my cousin in Australia wrote to my parents, said that your family is in a refugee camp in Indonesia. That's how they, because my mom, I found out later in 93 when I went back that my mom, the market in Vietnam people go to the market in Vietnam a lot.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Man, we're all over the Southeast. Y'all talk about on radio and on live streaming and on podcasts. Thank you very much for being a part of our lives. The only reason why we get behind this microphone is because of y'all. Hey, listen, I'm going to go ahead and jump right to a phone call. Proud to say that we've got U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville on the line right now to talk about this situation we've got with the monitoring of his phones. Senator Tuberville, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm a good lawyer.
That's 2 words that don't often go together, good and lawyer. But I got a card in my pocket if you need it.
Well, I tell you, it's a mess. The rot in this place just gets deeper and deeper. And Phil, I can remember back when I was coaching University of Cincinnati about 10 years ago, Lois Lerner Remember,
Oh,
Obama
yeah.
turned her loose
Oh,
on
yeah.
all of the conservative 501s. I mean, it just and ever since then, Republicans, conservatives have been attacked, been investigated. It's just it should be a crime, and you know, I don't think there's enough blowback on this because there's so much other stuff going on. But we're not going to let this die. You know, this Arctic frost that Chuck Grassley, Senator Grassley, has gone after. Basically, the whistleblowers are coming out of the woodwork, and that's how this one happened. A whistleblower come out and said, "Hey, there was a task commission given, you know, down from DOJ and Jack Smith, and they were fishing for dirt on Donald Trump, and you know, they can't stand the guy, and they were trying to get him out."
Well, so what we know right now is that the document was discovered indicating that you and a number of others, including Senator Marsha Blackburn, Lindsey Graham, Josh Hawley, several of y'all, like almost a dozen of y'all, all Republicans, were having your phones monitored by Jack Smith's special counsel's office. So what the heck, Coach? I mean, do we have any idea why they chose y'all?
Yeah, well, because I was an ally with President Trump, and a lot of this even started before I was sworn in. And I used to travel with President Trump and go to introduce him at some of these rallies in Michigan and out in Lake Tahoe, and you know, they looked at people that knew President Trump and hoped they'd get something through you know, phone logs or whatever. And again, Cash Patel called me last night. He said, "Coach, we're not near done with this. Get ready. We're going after them." And I told him, as I told him to Cash, you know, people across this country are tired of listening. You got to get somebody and you got to indict them. Let's put them in jail.
Well, I'd settle for also Jack Smith being one of the ones on a perp walk. I mean, that guy ran an out of control special counsel's office. $50 million they spent, you know, doing all the Mar-a-Lago raid and everything else. But let me ask you. I mean, so Coach, there's about a dozen of y'all. What do you know about this? Were they actually monitoring your phone calls, or were they actually bugging your phones? What do we know about this?
They could not tell us, simply for the fact that it's gone to a grand jury, and again, they have not completed the investigation. This will get deeper and deeper as we go. There's no telling what they're going to dig up with whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork, because a lot of people that work in these agencies were not Biden fans. They were basically just Americans or Donald Trump fans or Republicans. They never thought that Donald Trump would win. They thought they could cheat their way into another victory with this loser, Kamala Harris, but didn't quite work out for them, and now they're getting ready to pay the price.
Yep, fooled around, found out. Well, listen, I'm glad we found this out, and I hope that we're going to wind up seeing more, like you said. And I'm glad to hear that there's a serious investigation and that Cash Patel is still on top of it. And Coach, listen, I know you got a hard out. You gave us a quick phone call just to give us an update on this, and you got to be somewhere for votes in about a minute and a half. So just want to ask you real quick before you go, how's things going with shutdown negotiations? What do you expect on that? And are we going to stay shut down for a little bit longer?
Well, it's up to the Democrats. You know, we're voting on the same CR they passed 13 times in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different. And so they want to add $1.5 million, $1.5 trillion now. They want to pay for illegals health care. They want to do away with the rural health care that we're going to get for Alabama and other states across the country. It's a disaster what they're trying to do. But all they got to do is say, okay, let's pass it for another 2 months and then negotiate. They don't want to do it. They want to keep it closed down. So be it. We'll go on with it. And at the end of the day, the American public will win.
Well, and I think so too. And listen, we appreciate you making time for us. I know you got to go right now, but Coach, thanks for your time. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
All right. Stay in the fight. All right. That's just, listen, that was a quick call. They actually got on the phone and got us in between votes. So he's down by the floor of the Senate. You can hear by the echoey sound I've been down in that tunnel before, and it's literally an echo chamber.
So I assume they're about to vote again on the CR to reopen the government.
I would hope that's all they're bringing to the floor. I mean, what else can you vote on right now besides that? That's, unless there's some non-controversial confirmations or something like that they got to do. But I would suspect this is going to be the constant thing: putting the bill in front of Democrats, making them vote; putting the bill in front of Democrats, making them vote. Listen, Josh Hawley is one of those who had. And by the way, here's the list. I'll tell you who it was. The FBI was targeting the following members of Congress: Senators Lindsey Graham, Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, Josh Hawley of Missouri, Dan Sullivan, Alaska, Tommy Tuberville, Alabama, Ron Johnson, Wisconsin, Cynthia Loomis of Wyoming, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, and Mike Kelly of Pennsylvania. It's a representative, Mike Kelly. So basically what they were doing was they're looking for Trump allies in the Senate, mostly Senate, one House member, and just diving right into their phone records. So the document was found. Here's what it was. The document was found that in 2023, the FBI had sought and obtained data about these senators' phone use from January 4th through January 7th. In other words, 2 days before the Jan 6 events and 1 day afterwards. They wanted to know who they talked to. Did you know anything? Were they leading? Were they part of the conspiracy that we know everybody was a part of? Were they part of the insurrection? The document was found in what's known as a prohibited access file. In other words, it was classified confidential. But in response to Senator Grassley's FOIA request, it was now exposed. All of those I just named were the ones who were being sought after. It's just unbelievable. Josh Hawley, by the way, says that what we're looking at right now is an abuse of power beyond Watergate. Story here on Fox News. Hawley told Fox News Digital on Monday the newly released documents suggest that the Biden administration was, quote, spying on the president's political opponents, which he called a profound violation of the separation of powers. I mean, who heard of this before? You're the president, you're DOJ, you assign them to investigate something. And by the way, while you're at it, go ahead and get into the phones of Republican U.S. senators I don't like. 2 of those are now about to be the governors of their respective states. Guess who survived? Thank you very much. But nonetheless, it still shouldn't have happened. And it can't ever happen again. It's an absolute freaking mess. Townhall.com was one of the first to report on this Operation Arctic Frost. Got a piece here that came out from them again yesterday. The Biden White House has turned over government cell phones belonging to President Donald Trump. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot this. They also got the phone records back during the investigation of Donald Trump and Mike Pence. The president and the vice president. Let that sink in. You got 7 or 8 U.S. senators and the president and the vice president all having their phone records, personal phone records, caught up in an FBI investigation. That's just unreal to me.
No warrants, no anything. They you can do whatever you want. These are only conservatives. You can tap their phones however much you want.
Tracking the phone calls of all these GOP senators and everybody else, and it says that they were tracking the private communications, not in their private, they're basically getting in their business. It's clear the Biden administration and Democrats weaponize government against Republicans and Americans to advance their leftist agenda and cement their power in Washington, D.C. Unstinking believable.
Well, how about the phone companies too? Because they'd be the ones allowing this to happen.
Well, you heard Coach and I talking off the air that he might need to get an attorney. And by the way, I will say this: the fact that they are U.S. senators did not excuse them from investigation if they had done something wrong.
Exactly.
But the idea that you can do a fishing expedition and go, you know what? I don't know. Is he close to Trump? He is close to Trump. Maybe they knew something. Let's go find out.
Yeah. The proper way to go about it is
probable
cause, get a warrant, and then do it the right way. You don't just get to do whatever you want because you were given the authority to do so. Jack Smith, who even is, Jack Smith just appointed to this, council or investigation. He can just do whatever he wants at that point. You can't just do whatever you want. You have to abide by the law, Newsflash. They like to say that Republicans are fascists and don't abide by the law. Seems like that's a little bit of fascism. The executive can just have Jack Smith go and spy on senators that he doesn't like.
Well, and he also had the endless credit card, $50 million for his investigations, a huge staff. Just ran amok, doing whatever he wanted to do, going wherever he wanted to go, had carte blanche to get it done. And yet they're going to accuse us now. Well, you're arresting Comey. Yeah. And we got documents to back it up.
And a grand jury indicted Comey.
Thank you very much. Keith from Parts Unknown checking in says only $25,000. See Tucker. Yep, I know. But you know what though? It's a great event. It's a fundraising event, and it's designed to if you can't afford that ticket, they have other tickets. Brian from Harvest says, I know you don't like looking into conspiracy theories, but you do know the conspiracy theorists are really running out of stuff. Most of it's come true. We could do a list of conspiracy theories that have come true and probably find quite the list.
That was a good liner on Bongino's show. The conspiracy theorists are proven right again. Yep. Or something like that.
Dorothy from Meltmont says, I haven't heard talk about how the hostage bodies are being kept. I wondered on ice, buried, or worse. I don't know. Probably locked in a box. It's awful, Dorothy. David from Huntsville says, a correction during the bite. Oh, he's talking about the thing during the, yes, I get you. Yeah, thank you very much. Tom from Decatur says, my question is, don't you have to get a Pfizer? Okay, this is a voice text. It's not Pfizer like the drug company. It's Pfizer like, the FISA, Pfizer. Court order to surveil an American citizen, let alone a sitting U.S. senator. I would think so, but I think the special counsel was given some carte blanche and also may have just taken some privileges, if you know what I'm saying. JT Lacey Springs once again says the redneck clip you played is one of the proofs that prevent foreign invasions. Yes, it is true. All right, we're taking a break right now. We'll take the last break of this day on a Taco Tuesday. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, right?
Like the street markets.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also a social place, a place where people catch up with their neighbors, and find out,
all the
gossip going on. And every day she would go to the market and she would hear so-and-so left, but they didn't survive the sea. Oh, wow. So-and-so was robbed by pirates and they killed everyone. It got to the point where my parents hadn't heard from us for months. My mom was so distraught. She thought that she might have sent her kids to die because she hadn't heard from us for months, and she didn't think that we had survived. She said, I can't hear this anymore. So she stopped going to the market and she shut herself upstairs in one of the rooms until she could hear if we had survived or not. Wow. And my sister said one time she went to spend some time with my grandmother for the summer and came back, and my mom was sitting there and she didn't even recognize my mom because my mom had lost so much weight and she was just grieving, thinking that we didn't survive.
Wow. But you did. Mm-hmm. And you came to the United States. Life is better. And were you able to communicate with them directly at that point? Were those letters, you weren't having to go through Australia anymore. You were sending letters directly.
Right.
Wow. So you're 22 years old leaving high school, but you met a guy named John at some point who was sitting over here to my left. And you and John now have been married for a lot of years.
It'll be 35 years this June.
Yeah. My wife, Charlene, and I are at 38.
Wow.
But you and John met, and I saw you give a speech to a church, and you said that John had already decided he was going to marry an Asian woman because God had told him that.
Yes.
And then he met you.
Yes.
And I guess that was it.
Yeah.
But you also had some friends who prayed you two together. Mm-hmm. Tell that story.
Okay, so let's see how. Okay, so John went on a mission trip, Central America, and he was engaged to a lovely young lady in North Alabama. Well, during his mission trip, he realized she wasn't the one for him. So when he got back, he broke up their engagement. So a few months after that, he was going down an escalator at the Parisian. If you live in North Alabama, there was a mall there with a store called Parisians.
Yeah.
Well, he was buying a gift for a baby shower, and he came down this escalator, and he saw this older Asian lady at the end of the escalator where there was some makeup counters.
Yeah.
And he had a flashback that when he was a kid, he saw himself marry an Asian person, a woman. And so he said, he did out loud, he said, God, that's what I need.
Apparently he was right.
And so the next day when he went to the baby shower, he saw a friend, and his friend said, we have this girl we want you to meet. She's a friend of my girlfriend, who at that time was my best friend in high school. And John's like, I don't really want to date a high school girl.
Because he was older, right?
Right. He graduated from UAH, has his engineering degree and all that stuff. He was 25. And he said, no, I don't really want to date a high school girl. And his friend said, oh, no, she's actually 22 years old.
But she's still in high school.
Yeah, she's still in high school. And he said, no, I don't really want to date a stupid high school girl. And they're like, no, she's actually 22. And they had to explain why I was 22 in high school. I didn't know English and all that. And they had this a grainy high school newspaper of me winning some sort of award. And they showed it to him, and he said, oh, okay, I'll meet him and her. And so he came on our awards night, and that's how I met him. And I knew he was the one right away. I wasn't even allowed to date at that time.
Oh, you weren't allowed to date?
I've never dated.
Okay, so how did this go over?
Yeah. So I knew
tell your uncle and aunt what's going on now, right?
It took me several months. I had to work up the courage.
Did he have to come to the restaurant?
Oh, my gosh. He ate so much Chinese food. So much. I mean, this is a guy that doesn't even eat black pepper. You know, he was forced to eat a lot of Chinese food. So I went to my aunt and uncle and said, I met this guy, and I think, I really like him. I'd like to know him. And my aunt said, well, you work 7 days a week, so you can't date.
They were cutting you no slack.
No.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, making common sense like a superpower, y'all. John's got the grades in, and then I'll go to the phones. John from Huntsville says, JP gets an A+ for his fantastic performance, which means today's co-winners with a perfect A++ are obviously Phil Williams and the best Auburn coach ever, Tommy Tuberville. Congratulations, John from Huntsville. What do you think about that? Best Auburn coach ever?
I would agree.
I would agree with that. Mm-hmm. And he now has a ring because they got the national championship they should have had back then.
He has a ring, whether it's authentic or not.
Oh, I just knew. I just knew when I said something, you're gonna have some kind of smarmy comment to say. Hey, by the way, before I run out of time, I will let you guys know again that I will be out tomorrow, headed back to CNN up in New York City. JP is going to run the helm tomorrow. He'll take part of the show himself, and then we'll have a little bit of a replay on part of it. But yeah, y'all give JP your listening, respect, and love. He'll be opening up the show tomorrow, doing his monologue and taking care of business. I'll be on CNN tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Central, so please tune in, and we'll give you the update when I get back on the very next day. In the meantime, let me go to the phones because it's Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Woohoo!
Woohoo! You doing all right? Home of the Corvette Museum, which I do recall you don't drive by, but it is up there.
Yeah, if the bottom don't fall out of it again. And
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, the Earth ate up a bunch of Corvettes there at one time.
That was awful. I mean, right there in the middle of the Corvette Museum, a sinkhole opens up and classic cars got sucked into the earth. I mean, some of them were almost priceless, too.
And I don't know if I ever found all of them either. How deep the hole is, it's pretty deep, apparently.
Well, I mean, it's just, it's amazing that that happened, but it's also really amazing that they got it taken care of and the museum didn't go away. I mean, part of you wonder how they keep the museum on the same spot, but they did.
Yeah, I'd be kind of cautious.
Yeah,
but,
walk carefully. Don't wear your heavy boots.
That's right.
Well, what's on your mind, man? We've been talking about a lot of stuff today with the shutdown Shinola and the weaponized government and all of it. What you got?
But this Jack Smith. I think they should go after the people that appointed. He was never confirmed by Congress. So he did basically, I think they should have pulled his pay. He was basically working illegally for the government.
Yeah, he was a rogue.
No fault of his own, but he was never appointed and never approved, by
I would agree. And you know, in the stuff we saw him do with like the raid on Mar-a-Lago and all of it, it was just so beyond the pale. It's almost as if they thought they were untouchable. And guess what? They're being touched.
Well, if the Democrats would have got back in there, they would have been untouchable.
Yes, exactly
And
right.
you know, this stuff here just kind of trickles out and everything. I hope, you know, there's got to be. This is just the tip of an iceberg because there's got to be so much other stuff out there that nobody knows about that's been swept out of the rug and held out of. You know, we think that all these documents have got to be, you know, in the archives and everything, but they're not. You know, how much secretive stuff goes on, you know, that we don't know anything about.
Well, and I agree. I mean, and it's if we're finding this out now, but I'll be honest with you, I will say this: I don't think there's ever been as much scrutiny and transparency as what we're also getting out of Senator Grassley and with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi. I mean, they're going through like the storage rooms, opening drawers, and they're also firing people, which is really helping. And whistleblowers are coming forward. So I don't think we've ever seen anything like what we're seeing right now in terms of getting down to the bottom of things.
I just hope that they find this stuff before the statute of limitations runs out on all this stuff. Yeah. I think it needs to be extended because, you know, this stuff was purposely hidden by government officials. Now, you know, it's like, well, if we hide it long enough, we can get away with it. So I think they need to suspend the statute for a lot of this stuff.
Well, you can't do that, but if they're federal law, that they can change the law.
Sure.
I think they're going to find it. I mean, you know, they're aware of the statute of limitations, and there are certain things that can do what's called tolling the statute. In other words, it can make things extend out if certain conditions exist. But like the James Comey thing, they got that indictment done literally like 4 days before the statute ran out.
Oh yeah, and their Democrats are having fits about it. You know, I listened to something today. You know, Pam Bondi was before the Senate today, I guess, doing testifying about stuff. But what was so refreshing is Senator Kennedy and Senator Cruz was on there, and you know there was so much levity. You know, they was cutting up and everything, and Senator Cruz's time was the question. And he said, well, Senator Kennedy wanted to get in there, and he goes, well, you can be my color commentator. And he did. He was talking about different stuff while Senator Cruz was talking. And that is something you'll never see the sour Democrats do.
Yeah.
You never see them laugh. You never see them make any light of anything. It's always just sour and bitterness. And that's the difference between a Republican and a Democrat.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, man, I got about 10 seconds, so you be safe on the road. I'm gone tomorrow, but I will talk to you when I get back the next day, all right?
Take that glass with you now.
Be drinking on stage.
Well, you've got your Rightside paper there, so you might as well bring the glass with you too.
I might. All right, man. You have a great night. All y'all. Have an amazing night. Do not forget what I always say. Golly bum, there's a whole lot more of us than there are of them. God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you.